Good evening. It is Monday, March 10th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. First item on the agenda is a public hearing, proposed accessory dwelling unit, ADU bylaw and regulations. Do you want me to, or you do?
I'll do a quick update. So this is public hearing number 4. We have a draft version of the ADU bylaw dated March 2nd, 2025, which includes the following revisions. Added the ADU by right and special permit uses to the applicable zoning districts. And the second thing is added the short-term rental prohibition to the ADU special permit section. Town council reviewed these changes, and they were acceptable. A copy of the current version was provided to Mark Purple for the draft warrant for the select board meeting tomorrow night. And we have March 24th is the last meeting before the before the annual town meeting, our pre-ATM meeting. I can't talk, sorry.
I'll just expand on that a little bit. So at the last meeting, we'll go for the board first, Paul. At the last meeting, we had discussed like leaving accessory apartments, and town council had opined that it would be better to have all one bylaw with the by right version of the ADU and the special permit version. And the terminology, the protected, unprotected, seemed to be very confusing, so I have the bylaw as by right in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 1A, which is the definition of the ADU by right in Mass General Law, and then the special permit, which is over 900 square feet. And I also did some little changes, like added the ADU by right to Res A, so it would carry through as a by right use through all the other zoning districts except for Industrial Park, which is the only non-residential zoning district, and amended the special permit for accessory dwelling to be, for accessory apartments to be accessory dwelling, and removed the accessory dwelling permit under, for zoning board of appeals, just so everything conforms. I have one suggested little teeny change to answer your question from last time. And I would change the word trailer to mobile home, which is defined in our, yes. That would be my suggestion. And the other thing, the code number is left blank. I would suggest 174.13-.9, because that's the next one. .9. And I'll be answering questions to the select board on this in the next item, the shared parking, on Zoom tomorrow, if anyone would like to join. It wasn't a huge response to my email, but that's fine. Jesse, any questions or comments?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks, Mimi. Thanks for going through and making sure consistency in the other parts of the town code. So the question is, if that's 13.9, do we need to have another section for the ADU or just completes?
Yeah, so that would be 9.
13.9G.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is the G right there. So it's all under the same
Okay.
code, even though it's split up into 2 zoning articles, it would be 1 code.
Okay, so I had no other questions. You saw my change. I also typed in mobile home. My only question for you is who's creating and who's presenting this at town meeting, because it's like a month away.
Yes, so we have one more meeting, so we need to settle that tonight. Any volunteers? You did such a good job with MBTA. This is like easy-peasy.
I wish I could volunteer. I literally have no time.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I can help with the slides, but I think we need to put an outline together that clearly delineates kind of where there's confusion. And we've gotten a lot of the feedback from people who've attended the meeting. So I hope it's not so complicated.
I recommend Mimi.
Does anyone want to tag team with me? All right. I can, if I put together, because I'm not good at PowerPoint and you're fabulous, I can put like the information together on a very elementary PowerPoint. If
Just put it on Word, because it's
Oh,
actually
okay.
easier to edit on Word, and then we can put it on PowerPoint.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Great.
I'll help you.
All right. Jesse, are you interested in tag teaming with Mimi?
Yeah, sure, I can help.
I mean, come on, last town
At the
meeting.
podium?
Yeah, at the podium. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Just wanted to clarify at the podium.
Yes. Thank you for that, in case Kevin's listening. Ms. DeMaria.
I don't have any comments. I think it reads much nicer now. I really appreciate that. I want to also thank our audience members, and Mr. Bartolini and Mr. Carter, because we got your comments early, and hopefully that will help us at town meeting. But also, it's just really nice to have you participate in this process, and I really feel like we've had quite a participation. So I don't have any comments, but thanks again.
Thank you. Ms. Braccio.
I have nothing further to add, other than I completely agree, Debbie. I think the participation on this was great, so thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience with any questions or comments? The first to the microphone goes first, either one.
Actually, not very much. You answered most of my questions. So I had a question, but it's going to be 13.9. And then
Jack,
the other
can you
one is
just say
13.
for the recording clerk who you are?
John Bartolini Jr., 4 Wyeth Circle.
Thanks.
And then the next one is going to be 13.9G. All right, so
Yeah.
it'll all be.
It'll all be the same section of the code.
I didn't quite catch you as to, so now I'm talking about the last part. The first part, I think you've done it. I think we're all there. On the last part, the ones, the unprotected special permit. Did you say you changed the special permit is the planning board or the ZBA now?
Planning board,
So it went to the planning board because it was the ZBA?
correct.
Okay. That's fine. And then the last paragraph, I thought we were going to drop the percentages and everything because nobody's been paying attention to that for years. Total cumulative.
I think we did, isn't it crossed out?
I didn't see it.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it was crossed out on mine.
Maybe it's not on mine.
No, I did a clean version. It still was there. It wasn't track changed.
It might be off.
It was
No, it's
number
off.
3,
It's
point
off.
number 3, right? The 25%.
I'm sorry, I picked this up on Friday and didn't get this one. So,
No, I just printed it out, and it wasn't in the track changes. So it was
Okay.
still part of the warrant article.
yeah, it's in the warrant article. That's what I grabbed.
I don't see it on this copy.
So when you actually clean up and accept all edits, it's still there. Number 3.
No, that stays. The 25%?
Yeah.
Oh, so that was staying. What we got rid of was the, no more than 5% of units.
Right, it was the very last paragraph. It says the total cumulative number of accessory apartments shall not exceed as of January
Right.
1970.
Yeah, that we
That's
deleted.
gone.
Oh, okay.
That's gone.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Oh, that's right, those are the non-conforming sections. I don't know what that means. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep. Where was that? Oh, okay. sections. Oh, that's right, because it's sections 17419B and 17419C, so that's correct.
Yeah.
So it's two different sections. I don't know, that's what council did, sections. The two sections, I don't, yeah, that's, yeah, I don't think we can do that.
It makes sense. They're larger buildings, so they have to have an extra eye on them. More money than anything.
No, it's just something that's been long overdue. We've always had a special permit.
There's more.
So you're just aligning with,
If I'm sitting
state
real
law.
close,
Yeah, state law.
I can almost reach you with my hammer.
I don't know.
Thank you.
It's kind of scary. Oh, sure as a chair.
Yes, sir?
Good evening. I think the planning board has done a great job in putting this together.
Could you identify yourself?
Yeah, I'm Paul Carter. I live at 6 Hillside Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm a civil engineer. I've been doing it for about 40 years. 4 years with Beals and Thomas, and 3 years doing peer reviews for Mass Highway Department and the town of Medway. And other than that, a transportation engineer. So I just, like I said, I think the planning board's done a great job in terms of putting this bylaw together. One thing I'd say about the presentation is that really important that town residents know that this is a state law, okay? And that these are the things, and I don't know whether you just want to summarize it or not, that the state law says. And the planning board is supplementing it with their regulations for the town. So I had basically 4 comments. I think it would be helpful if it was stated that there be a public comment meeting at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting. I expect you would have something like that anyway, because you're going to have abbreviated site plan review, so that would be mentioned, talked about at that meeting. And I think it would be important to say that abutters would be to directly notify the abutters, because really the possible objection to this at town meeting is going to be people that are afraid of what their neighbor is going to build 10 feet from their property line without them knowing about it. You know, and it always helps to have people have an opportunity to express their fears and their concerns, even though the planning board may not be able to completely address them because of the restrictions of the state law and what process is allowed, which is site plan review. And the board has mentioned abbreviated site plan review. One thing that I think would be helpful is that be defined, what abbreviated site plan review is. What I have done is marked up how you might be able to address that in a simple way, which would be to refer to minor site plan review in some sense. The most important thing that's outlined in minor site plan review is the requirements of the plan. And, you know, people who think, well, I can do anything I want on my property, there's no way that this is going to be able to be reviewed and explained and to the neighbors unless you have a plan. And thinking about the plan, well, we'd like it to be a sketch, but it can't be a sketch. It's going to have to be a plan that shows the property line. It's going to have to be a plan that shows the house, the septic system, and the reserve existing, and at least the outlines of the new septic system. It's going to need to show wetland boundaries, and so it's going to need to be surveyed. Now, that's quite a large, expense, but, if you're spending $100,000 or $150,000 for a detached ADU, and my comments really refer to the detached ADU, which I think is helpful to define that that's what's being talked about, not something that's being added onto. So the first two comments, I'm just suggesting some wording that could be added to section G at the end about a public meeting. And the second part is just referring to the site plan approval. The other thing to do is to put a section about abbreviated site plan review, in addition to the two already, minor and, I don't know whether it's major or whatever it is. But I think that just incorporating what you mean by abbreviated site plan review within the site plan approval section, I think would work. The last thing that I didn't include in here is I looked in the dimensional requirements for Zone A and Zone B, and it's important. The dimensional requirements are, I think, 25 feet, maybe it's for A, and then 10 for accessory buildings, maybe it's garages, but, and then it can be 10 feet for accessory, 25 for the building. So I think because it says accessory buildings, it's important to say under the 10-foot, but not including detached accessory dwelling units, because it says accessory buildings, so which you might interpret to be an accessory dwelling unit.
So I know what you're saying, but I don't think we can do that, because I think the state regs say the setbacks for a single-family home or accessory use, whichever is the least prohibitive.
No, accessory use wouldn't be changed. All it would be is that we provide less of a setback, 10 feet, for like a shed.
Right. So I think that's what the state is saying, whatever's less is what
In
they,
terms of a side setback?
any setback.
Yeah, I think it, if possible, I think it would be important that the side setback, which is going to be the most important setback for any neighbor, be 25, rather than 10. And, my shed is right on the line, and people don't have a problem with the sheds being 10 feet from the property line, but they might have a problem with, and that, I think, is maybe the biggest issue regarding the ADU, is what the side setback is. Anyway, something to think about. I know maybe it's a little confusing. The other parts, I guess, I would suggest, I know it's kind of late in the game, I might have missed a couple meetings, but I think the public meeting, and particularly the notice to the abutters, I think is really important. Clarifying what's got to be on the plan, I think, is really important, because we have such a problem with our applicants and the quality of their plans. So I guess I just go back to think about, how is the public, how are the town meeting members, how are the residents of Southborough going to look at this? Hopefully they're going to look at it like something that we really need to do, and something that's not, is an opportunity for them as property owners, and something that is not going to be that bad. But it concerns me, when you make a change, and you make a change that affects somebody's house, somebody's yard, people are going to take it very personally, and they're going to be very concerned. So I think these suggestions, just mostly they're clarifications, I think would help us, and hopefully, that would be that little bit that would get approval.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. A couple of things. So all planning board meetings are public meetings. And we always take comment at our meetings on everything, so I don't think we need to put that into the bylaw. I'm not sure about a butter notification because it's a minor site plan,
Yeah.
and there's no a butter notification required in a minor site plan. What was the other thing? Oh, I'm trying to look up the,
Grab something here.
oh, okay. Oh, and the abbreviated site plan, it lays out the things that we'll be looking at, that's right in the code, and it's in keeping with the Chapter 40A, Section 3, which is the Dover Amendment, the only certain things that you can look at in a site plan review, because this is a Dover protected use.
Yeah, one thing I did is, in there, you'll notice that it references back in terms of from where you would be revising the site plan review, site plan approval, it reference backs to the body of the ADU that says that only the three things that you'd be looking at in terms of the abbreviated.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're allowed to look at.
Right.
Under Dover.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting you do anything different.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Just trying to define some things and hopefully convince the people that are afraid that they're going to have a chance to talk and their neighbor isn't going to start with an excavator next door and they don't know what's going on. Because that's when we end up with lawsuits and we end up neighbors hating each other, and that's not what we want to happen, because we value so much our neighborhoods and hopefully our neighbors, and the neighborhood is part of our home.
Right.
Houses around us are part of our home and the streets. So
Yeah.
that's the spirit. And like I said, I apologize that these are coming in kind of late because I know that you're trying to get the warrant finalized. I guess all I'd say is that the public meeting could be easily added.
Thank you. Sure.
Just for clarification, under the proposed warrant article, Section E, referring to abbreviated site plan, that is not just for detached ADUs.
Correct.
Just for the record, it's clear that it's
Sure,
any
and-
ADU, right? Okay. Thanks.
That would be something that maybe someone might find is more of an intrusion because you're regulating how what they're doing to their house. But I understand, and that makes sense not to try and, thing is to make it as simple as possible for people, because people are going to be confused.
Right. So we do that now. So the intention is to kind of do the same thing we do now, but without a special permit, so it's not a discretionary use. We can't say
Right.
no. And I think that the board is aware of maintaining transparency and public input, which is why we wanted to keep the abbreviated site plan and not just have it go to building permit, because there'd be no chance for input there.
I was pretty much going to say what you said, Mimi. What you're really asking for, Paul, is that somewhere between, you're leaning more towards a special permit, and that's what
No,
we're getting rid of.
Just trying to, so that people.
Now, I hear you. Well, first off, I don't think that the building inspector is going to make a mistake between an accessory dwelling and an accessory building, like a shed or a garage, and specifically says here. But then the other thing is, you want to notify the abutters, and that's what a special permit does. So then you're pushing into the latter part, so then that encourages people to go over the 900 square feet, because guess what? We're already going to come here and do all this work. So,
Not
I hate to-
necessarily, I think it's
I
clear.
find myself agreeing with the planning board and not you.
Well,
Write this one
What's the
down.
date and time?
no, that's fine. I guess the question is how will the neighbors know that something is in front of the board? Because they do a survey, maybe?
No, Mimi? So in the beginning, when they come for the application, they're certainly encouraged to talk to their neighbors, so they let them know. Whether they do or not, I don't think we can enforce.
That would be the smart thing to do, certainly.
Yeah, encouragement is always there.
We can put it on a planning board news flash or something, and I'm sure everyone in the town has signed up to get those.
Just one final comment is that, as Mr. Bartolini pointed out, the building inspector wouldn't make any, I don't think would make the wrong implication of what an accessory building or an accessory dwelling unit is. In our definitions, we have a very clear accessory building definition, and we are now adding an accessory dwelling unit. And so since that RA and B say accessory building or swimming pools, I think it's covered
Okay.
and would be inferred by the building inspector. Okay. Shall I make a motion?
1 second, Karina, so the building commissioner had a comment.
I'll try and make it brief. So in speaking with the building commissioner, we have a section at the beginning of the zoning code 174-8C1, and it refers to that uses and buildings that trigger the requirement for on-site parking, except for single-family and two-families, require site plan review under Chapter 1, Section 174-10, per the applicability requirements there. So, under site plan approval, if you have a new development, if there's impacts to parking and landscaping, if it's a change of use, if it's a reactivation of a abandoned facility, if it's a multifamily, or if it's an adaptive historic reuse project. Those things trigger site plan approval. So when you have an ADU, see, I can explain this. He thought, his first impression was that the ADU is an accessory use to the single family, and felt that those two things would be in conflict. So if you look at section 170, can you pull that up in the town plan code?
So he was thinking that because it says if there's an increase in on-site parking, except for 1 and 2 families, then it requires site plan review. And that somehow would be in conflict with the accessory dwelling requiring an abbreviated site plan. But I don't think that's all inclusive. There are many other things that require site plan that aren't in there. And it's not because of the increase in on-site parking that this requires an abbreviated site plan. It's because it's an accessory dwelling unit. So I see what he's saying, but I don't think that's an issue.
So herein lies the challenge, right? So he has to enforce this. So his interpretation, did he have a resolution as to what we should be doing that would make him feel more comfortable if he's going to support? Because at the end of the day, we can only pass the zoning and he's going to be enforcing it.
But he does now for accessory dwelling units. Not
Right, but
really
he's
site
saying
plan.
it's potentially in conflict, so I do think we should understand what his resolution is for that.
Yes. And
Did he give us a suggestion?
we spoke very quickly.
Okay.
He was hoping to attend this evening for a short time, but he had another conflict. So let me follow up with him and see if he has a suggestion to make it clearer, because when Mimi and I talked today, it was kind of understood that that's already kind of the process.
It's like
now.
inferred and part of, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
in,
like, and the the precedence, and the history of how this is handled. But if a new, when positions change and staff change, and it's not clear.
yeah, that's my worry.
So let me check with him, and for the next meeting, it'll be clear if there's anything we have to clarify. Yeah, it was a little bit confusing to me, because it's the inference to the one-family dwelling. It's, what does it say at that, right there? It says uses in buildings for which off-street parking is required, right? C1 right there, shall be subject to site plan review. So he felt that are exempt, right? So if you have an ADU that's tied to a single family or one or two family, it implies it's exempt because he would, in his initial thoughts were that it was an accessory use to that single family. Where in essence, we now would have a code for protected ADUs and unprotected ADUs that addresses what you have to do, kind of overrides that, because an ADU is its own entity. Right? Unless you say it's not
I
an
understand.
accessory
I
use.
just think that if he's raising this
Yes.
as a concern, I don't think we have to discuss it anymore. I think we just
Yeah.
need to get a clarification.
Yeah, trying to wrap my head around what to say to him, so, okay. Got it.
Anything else on this? Go for it, Ms. Houlihan.
That's me. Jesse's lucking out tonight. Oh.
Did you have a question or comment, Jesse?
Oh, no, I was waiting for the motion to continue.
Oh,
I make a motion to continue the public hearing for proposed accessory dwelling units ADU bylaw and regulations, and the proposed, sorry, just that one, from public hearing to March 24th, 2025 at 6:30 PM.
I second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
The next item on the agenda is another public hearing, proposed zoning amendment for shared parking. Karina?
Okay. So again, this is public hearing number 4 for the shared parking zoning amendment. Town council provided a current revised version dated February 16th, 2025, removing the special permit aspect and also some minor edits. In addition, town council commented on section G2, referring to that the planning board may wish to identify the districts specifically, and that's in regards to, let me just read that so everybody understands, BFG. Oh, you have it up there? Yeah, so in G2, moving around and read it. Uses sharing the parking space should be located not more than 500 feet from the closest parking space. Lots for shared parking need to be contiguous and need not be in common ownership in said lots and may span different zoning districts in said lots. And there's some kind of typo there. However, a permit hereunder shall not be permitted in purely residential zoning districts, and that's where town council, if the planning board may wish to specify those districts, residential zoning districts.
Seeing as residential zoning districts were defined for the ADU as everything except for IT, then I think he's probably right that Res A and Res B should be spelled out there.
And a copy of the current version was provided to Mark Purple for the draft warrant review by the Select Board at their March 11th meeting tomorrow.
Ms. Houlihan? Sorry, Mr. Stein.
I have no questions, thank you.
Now, Ms. Houlihan.
Okay, I'm going to pose the same question. Who's creating the presentation deck and presenting this? You had a joint committee creating this, right? Can you have one of those people volunteer?
There are none as invested as
Ah.
the planning board. They were all very helpful, but there's lack of staff right now at the building, and people have been sick and et cetera, so they're kind of overwhelmed down there. So I would suggest Chris Lund, but he has an extremely full plate.
I mean, Mimi, you and I are doing the other one. We can just do this too if you want.
I like that suggestion, Jesse.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
No comment.
You all set, Ms. Houlihan? Mr. Maria?
Oh, I don't have any questions.
Ms. Braccio?
No questions.
Anybody? Yes, sir.
Can I just interject, was there a change agreement to specify?
Yes. Res A, Res B.
Okay.
Or however it's called out in the code.
The exact language is specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. Just don't want to miss.
All right, John Bartolini, 4 Wyeth Circle. Under G1, it says execution of any necessary easements. So are you going to do easements, or is this going to be with a lease, or is this going to be, is it going to just necessarily be an easement? Or is it going to be done through leases? I mean, once that easement is on, it's kind of on there for good. I mean, there's a lot of ways, different ways of doing this. Leases, licenses, license expires, the lease goes with the term of the building.
So it says any necessary easement, so I don't think it's required, but if there is an easement required.
All right, I kind of read it, all right.
Is that how?
That's how I read it. I mean, the only other thing is you could say is draft contracts could be clarified licenses.
I know what you're after, and I don't
Right.
know if this is one way, but I don't know if it's the only way.
Do you have a suggestion?
I don't know. I mean, it's a good question for Jay, but I don't really know.
This is straight from Jay.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean, what if we
I
said
thought of
easement?
licenses and/or leases, so you'd add easements, comma, licenses,
Licenses.
or lease.
So contingent upon the execution of any necessary,
Maybe
easement.
contracts,
Contracts, easements,
and then
licensing.
parens, licenses, easements.
oh, okay.
I think that would be an easy solution.
Contracts.
Yeah, because it may not last as long as an easement. It
And then
may-
a draft contract shall be provided as part of the application materials and strike the easement language.
Okay, that's good. That covers.
So the parentheses licenses and easements.
And one more.
I actually have 3 here, so. The next one down, number 2,
Oh,
it
no,
says,
Mr. Bartolini, licenses, easements, and there was one other word that you used.
I said licenses, it says easements, licenses, or leases.
Or leases. Thanks.
All right, the next one I had is number 2. It says, "and said lots and may span different zones." Should be "and said lots may span," sensor. Is the "and" supposed to be there? It
No,
kind
that's
of,
a
No.
typo, I was just
it's a
talking.
typo? Okay. And then the last one I have is on number 4, in the last sentences, a request to amend a special permit, but this isn't by special permit anymore. So if something changes, you just come in and request to amend the permit. Number 4, just in the last sentence.
Oh, there it
It
is.
says, or comma, it's comma, or to request an amendment to the special permit. This isn't a special permit.
To the site plan, right?
To the site plan. Right, site plan?
Yep. Thank you, Jack.
That's
Do you
it.
want to present this at town meeting?
I may help you, but I'm not gonna.
Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Let's see, attendees. No hands raised.
I make the motion to move to continue the public hearing for proposed zoning amendments for shared parking, 174-9 and 174-12, to 6:30 PM on March 24th, 2024.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing. 250 Turnpike Road, major site plan approval, and 250 Turnpike Road, contractor's yard, special permit for low-impact development. Can you update us, Karina? Thank you.
For the record, I don't expect to go over what I just handed you tonight. I understand you just received it.
Okay, let me just give a quick update. So this is public hearing number 11. If you recall, we skipped the last planning board meeting and jumped to this one, so there was nothing on February 24th. And we have an extension request that was filed with the town clerk. So at the next meeting, there'll be a need for an updated extension request.
Yes.
That will then
Received it.
push it out. Okay. I received work order scopes and fees from Niche Engineering, our new town consultant, and those were provided to Attorney Banan for Ferris Development Group. They provided the fee for the continued review of the major site plan approval and now the incorporated lower impact development special permit. And that was provided, the signed task order went to Niche on Friday,
Sure.
okay, so that you know. And they are going to coordinate any questions they have or whatever, but soon as that review comes in, we'll forward it to you.
Fantastic.
The planning board, okay? So that's pretty much where we are. It's in peer review with niche at this moment, and I'm hoping to get review comments prior to the next meeting, but it's a lot of information to digest for a new consultant.
I understand.
If they have any questions, though, I'll let you know
Great.
if there's anything in between.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good.
Well, I did say I wasn't going to talk about, is it too loud? I'm sorry.
You have to
Oh,
introduce
I'm
yourself
sorry. I thought you'd all know me by now.
for a recorder.
George Bonan, Assistant General Counsel for Ferris Development Group, and also here on behalf of the applicant, FD 250 Turnpike LLC. I have just passed out a letter, and it's basically addressing the comments that were made at the February 10th hearing. And I thought it would be a good idea for me to memorialize those comments and address them rather than come in here and have a back and forth. It gives me time to respond, and then in turn gives you time to respond, perhaps by our next hearing on, I'm assuming, which would be March 24th if we continue to then. One thing I want to highlight is if there are any legal interpretation issues, like for example, Chair Luttrell, you had referenced a zoning bylaw, 174C-12C2, and that basically states that a vehicle cannot back out obstructed into a street. I think that might be a good thing for Jay, who's opined on matters like this before, to make an illegal interpretation. Our view and our interpretation is that we're not backing into a street. We're not creating a street. It's basically an extended driveway. So, for example, the units and the townhouse units, they're not going to have their own numbered address. It'll be, for example, 248 Turnpike, Unit 1, then Unit 2, Unit 3. It's not an adopted street. So I understand we may have differences of opinion, and I think it might be a good idea to maybe get some outside counsel involved. And that was one of the things I addressed in the letter, as well as some other things. And if we could digest them before next hearing, I think we could have a much more productive conversation. That's basically all I wanted to say.
Okay. Mr. Stein?
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
In this handout that you gave us, and unfortunately Jesse does not have access to this easily right now, can you identify which one of these paragraphs are the specific ones you're talking about legal interpretation? Is it
Well,
just that one, or is there some?
If legal interpretation is needed, for example, if Chair Luttrell or any one of the board members disagrees with any statement I make in the letter, then I would suggest that we can either discuss it at the March 24th hearing, or if there's a difference in legal opinion, then we kick it up to Jay if he wouldn't mind reviewing it. And I can't name another one besides that really requires any legal interpretation. I think the definition of street is probably needs to be decided.
So our 40B regulations require that the access to the 40B conform to one of the definitions of street in our subdivision regulations.
This would not have to adhere to subdivision regulations because it's not a subdivision.
Right, but it's access to residential units.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you call it a driveway or a sidewalk or whatever, it's taking traffic through a commercial property into a residential zone, and you have parking spaces backing into that, which just is not safe.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think this is ripe for Jay to review. I think you would all agree with me. There's a difference in opinion here, and I think it just comes down to whether you believe it's a street and whether it's correctly identified as a street. And we don't believe that it is a street. We just think it's a driveway.
And it's safe to back from your driveway into the road?
The same way it would be to back into a parking lot, I would argue, yes. It's the same thing. There's going to be through traffic, and it's on the driver to determine whether he can back out safely. But in terms of running afoul of this zoning bylaw, I don't believe we do.
Okay, I disagree. Mr. Stein? Any comments or questions?
Mr. Banan, what was that you said something about seeking outside counsel?
Yes, Mr. Stein. At the last public hearing, there were several items that were highlighted by the board, and one of those things were what Chair Luttrell and I were just talking about, whether we are adhering or violating Section 174-12C2, specifically in that section, the part that states or that says, and I'll just read it. Unobstructed access to and from a street shall be provided and shall not require backing out into a street. So Chair Luttrell had stated that she thinks we're violating this zoning bylaw. She had stated this at the February 10th hearing. It's our interpretation that we are not violating the zoning bylaw, as the access easement is not a street. It's basically an extended driveway for the 40B. And I think this is a good example, or this is an item that should be addressed or have town council opine on, because it seems that it's a legal interpretation that two parties differ on.
So outside counsel, by that you mean our town council?
Correct. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I keep
okay.
saying, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I say outside
If
counsel, I meant
if you
town
bring up
council.
Special counsel, that's going nowhere.
No, we'll use J, if you so choose.
That's yeah, at this point, I don't really have anything else to ask about because we don't have peer review comments and, yeah, I pass.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan?
Hello, thank you. So since you're here, I mean, it would just, I just quickly read through it. It looks like most of the things you're suggesting you're going to make accommodations for.
Sure, yes.
Is there anything else that you would highlight just to kind of call out? I just think it would be good just for recording purposes.
Yes. I would, like I say in the letter, I would gauge the board's temperature as it relates to a loading area. The applicant has no problem providing a loading area and enclosing it per the zoning bylaw. However, I would ask the board to consider a waiver, being that these are contractor yard bays. They're going to be large bays with garage doors, and essentially each one of them are loading areas in and of themselves. I think it would make the site more aesthetically pleasing if a loading area was not included, or at the very least, we didn't have to enclose it.
Can I just ask a clarification on those loading areas? So my recollection of the plan, without opening the big document, is that the loading area that we were talking about was like on the side of the building,
Correct.
separate from any of the actual private entrances?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
It'll be basically, well, now it'll be enclosed, but before it was depicted as a marked area where a truck could park and load and unload.
And so if it was unloaded, there's still no private entrance? You still have to walk around to wherever your contractor bay is?
Correct,
right?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thanks for the clarification. Is that it, Attorney Banan, on things that we should just have specific, aside from 174-12C2?
There is one thing that was, another thing that was not highly contentious, but a little contentious, is my depiction and our request for a waiver from the landscape buffer, the 20-foot buffer. And I had indicated and I had proposed that we will plant some trees and create additional landscape buffer to shield the view from the residential properties that abut the contractor's yard from the building. And what properties I was specifically talking about was 125, 129, and 131 Parkerville. And that's our property at 125 Parkerville, and then Mr. Harvey's property at 129, and Mr. Palmer at 131. They'll have somewhat of a direct line of sight to the contractor's yard, and we have engaged in conversations with them about providing additional landscape buffer on both the contractor's yard parcel, 125 and 125 Parkerville. Obviously, I think we briefly had a discussion about this before, and the conclusion was that we couldn't include the landscape buffer, the addition of the landscape buffer on 125 Parkerville as part of the site plan, but we still plan on doing that as an agreement with the neighbors. And obviously, it's for their benefit. And the landscape buffer bylaw is there to protect them. And I'd just like to point out, if we're coming to an agreement with the abutters that are directly affected by it, I think we're doing our part and meeting the spirit of the bylaw. And then Ms. Luttrell had indicated that I had depicted also in my waivers the trees kind of behind the self-storage building and where the 40B is going to go, and that it was somewhat disingenuous of us to depict those and ask for a waiver and say that these trees are going to create a buffer from the residences above. And that wasn't my intention. I only included those photos of those trees, where the 40B is going to go, as part of the waiver for the 6-inch caliper. I just wanted to show how many trees there were, and that providing a list of every tree that's 6 inches or greater in caliper would be burdensome. That wasn't to show.
Those aren't on the site. Those aren't on the,
Correct. Well, some are. Some are. But yes, obviously those trees don't go from the contractor's yard parcel to the residences on, and I forgot what the street is called now, but it's the one that's perpendicular to Parkerville, but I think, someone say it?
No.
Okay, but you're all aware of the street I'm talking about, yes. We have agreements in place as part of our 40B application to create landscape buffer with those neighbors as well. And those neighbors are generally behind our 40B application. So as it relates to adhering to and sticking to the spirit of this landscape buffer, we're doing everything we can to provide that. And the abutters are behind us, and these are the parties that will be directly affected. I think that might be my last one. I just wanted to add that point of clarity that I did not include those photos to, so that they bolster our landscape buffer argument. They were just there for the 6-inch caliper waiver.
anything else, Ms. Lilly?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Murray?
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate your explanation. Just a quick question on I think it's 125 Parkerville?
Yes.
That is not going to be A&R'd or anything, right? That's a separate lot currently?
Correct. That's a separate lot that is also owned by the applicant, but we don't plan on A&Ring that.
So the only thing is if you're using that as buffer, that property could be sold, and then the neighbors don't have a buffer if a house goes in there, right?
That's true. I can't speak to what the next owner is going to do, but I can say that we'll do our part at the time and plant the trees that are needed. And it would bewilder me if the next party would take them down or cut them down.
Thank you.
Ms. Braccio?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I don't have any further questions. I will just say thank you for providing this. I think this will be helpful as we go into the next meeting, so thank you.
And I'll just speak to that 174-13F, which is the buffer along the residential zone. What you do with the 40B and the neighbors there is great, and I applaud you for that. But this is the site plan, and this is required in the site plan. And there are no trees on the contractor's bay lot from the fence. They're all cleared at that detention basin. So no existing trees can be utilized to satisfy that buffer. And I still think that we need that buffer because, as Mr. Murray says, we have no control over what happens to the property in the future, but we do have control over requiring a buffer at the contractor's bay, and it's required in our code.
Of course, I understand. And just so we're clear, we are adding trees to the north of the detention basin to the extent that we can. We had to clear the detention basin per Concom orders. So we're doing everything we can to bolster the vegetation in that area. And to your points about, what can we do to prevent the next person from, we can't do anything. But, even if this contractor's yard wasn't approved, the next person can come in there and, assuming it's their right to do so, cut the trees they want to cut down anyways. And then they'll have, if they can't do that, then I imagine they couldn't just do that with the trees we planted, that we proposed to plant.
Well, if it's an approved site plan, you're required to maintain that landscaping. And if you cut down the trees, then you're required to come back for a modification.
Yes. So I'm saying on 125 Parkerville, that's the property I'm highlighting right now. One of the questions was, or one of the comments was, what can we do to prevent the next owner? Exactly. So I just wanted to address that. But yeah, of course, if they're part of an approved site plan, they have to remain.
Which is why I would advocate for that landscape buffer under the planning board control under site plan, because that we can control.
Mm-hmm. And it is, and we're trying to provide more trees wherever possible on the lot.
Well, along the residential line, but not in the wetlands.
Correct, wherever possible.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Oh, Marnie scanned it.
All set? And I'll provide this to Karina electronically tonight. I just didn't want to send it to her before the hearing and make you all think that we have to review it tonight, even though we did.
Anyone in the audience? Yes, sir.
Bill Carter, 6 Hillside Avenue. As a former transportation engineer, the issue about backing up into whether it be a driveway, whether it be an access road, is a serious safety issue. When you have a driveway that you can't have a driveway goes to one use, okay? It goes to one store, which is a commercial or a retail use. It doesn't go to a residential use. So you have a driveway to this contractor's yard use, and you're also using it as a driveway to the residential use. It's inherently unsafe, and I would ask that you have Vanessa, your traffic consultant, review that and respond whether he thinks that's safe, which is actually, that's a more important interpretation than the legal interpretation that you're asking to. You need a traffic engineer to give you an interpretation whether it's safe. In terms of the 40B, right now it's shown as a lot without frontage. It's not a legal lot the way it is now. You may have to do a subdivision on that road, or at a minimum, the Board of Appeals and the Planning Board need to give you a waiver for the frontage requirements. One thing I would suggest that you might be able to do if you're constrained and can't prevent that backing out into a driveway or a street is to provide pavement markings and signage that warns people that there may be people backing out in front of them, and also that delineates the fact that this is a road or a driveway. You could provide arrows, you could provide a dash along the limits of this driveway street. The Zoning Board of Appeals has control of whether your access is adequate. And I would say also that the fire department and the police department could provide input, whether they consider this is appropriate access to, what is it, a 9,000, 6,000-foot-long cul-de-sac?
Mr. Carter, in response to the frontage question, that lot was A&R'd, and it does have frontage on Parkerville.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom have any questions? No?
No hands raised.
I make a motion to move the public, or not move, continue the public hearing for 250 Turnpike Road, Contractors Yard Building Major Site Plan Approval, and 250 Turnpike Road, Contractors Yard Special Permit for Lower Impact Development, the LID, to 7 PM on March 24th.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes?
Brasher, yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks for coming.
Before we start the next hearing, if anyone's here for the discussion on 361 Turnpike Road, the Valvoline, the proponent has asked to continue that, and there's no additional information before us tonight. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 200 Turnpike Road, modification to major site plan and modification to a special permit for lower impact development. Karina, can you kick us off? Good evening,
Evening.
Mr. Bemis.
So to start off, because this is the opening of the public hearing, I'm going to read the public hearing notice. Okay? So this is the public hearing notice. Modification to major site plan approval and special permit lower impact development, 200 Turnpike Road, Assessors Map 28, Parcel 3C. Per Section 174-10, major site plan approval, the Southborough Planning Board shall hold a public hearing on Monday, March 10th, 2025, in the McAuliffe Hearing Room, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass., and via Zoom, to consider the application of CMJ Ventures LLC for modification to major site plan approval at 7:05 PM. Per Section 174-13.3, lower impact development of the Southborough zoning code, the planning board shall hold a public hearing on Monday, March 10th, 2025, in the McAuliffe Hearing Room, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass., and via Zoom, to consider the application of CMJ Ventures LLC for modification to special permit for lower impact development at 7:05 PM. These hearings concern proposed modifications to eliminate the existing alley between the previously approved 7,000 gross square foot warehouse addition and the 4,600 gross square foot salt shed for the proposed contractor's facility. The 3.51 acre parcel is located in Highway Business Zoning District, 200 Turnpike Road, Assessors Map 28, Parcel 3C. A copy of the applications and plans may be viewed at the planning office at the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours or on the Planning Board Agenda Center at www.southborough.gov/agendacenter/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or join virtually at the following link, www.southboroughma.gov/674/virtual-meetings. Mimi Luttrell, Chair, Southborough Planning Board. And quick summary of the transactions. So we received submission 1 from Peter Bemis with Engineering Design Consultants representing the applicant. You may recall him, Jonathan Crandall is the owner. On February 18th, we filed it with the town clerk the next day. On the 19th, the legal ads were published in the newspaper on February 24th. And March 3rd, as required. Mr. Bemis provided the certified return receipt green cards and mailing receipts, the white ones, for the certified abutters list notification. This submittal was provided to the planning board and to the town departments on February 20th, as well as to Fuss and O'Neill for peer review. Let's see here. We are currently awaiting peer review from Fuss and O'Neill on submission number 1. We received one response from the Board of Health on submission number 1. They had no comments at this time. And that brings us to this evening. It's public hearing number 1 for this project.
Thank you, Karina. Welcome, Mr. Bemis.
Yes, good evening. Booming. Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultants, here on behalf of CMJ Ventures. So you folks are familiar with this project. You approved it. We're in construction. We provided you with an as-built. There's no buildings built. So basically what's happened here is we've renovated the entire site. Pavement's down. We had submitted some documentation to you folks relative to some drainage that was not as robust as we thought. And we caught that in construction, and we fixed that and replaced it. You've received documentation on that. There's really not been a complete consolidated approval from peer review engineer for all of this. So we wrapped everything that's happened in the interim, plus this proposal, into this plan set. So Rev 4, it's February 4th, plan set, includes this situation where there was 2 buildings. When CMJ started the project, they were using a different construction contractor to build the buildings. They advised them to do 2 independent buildings, and therefore there would be an alley between the buildings. It made no sense to us, but we weren't the designers, so we went forward and did what they had proposed. I suggested that they get a different contractor to weigh in on this because it made far more sense to have one uniform building. It would be much better on the site. That new contractor confirmed that you could do it that way. So what ends up happening is that the alley between the buildings, about 10 feet, so it's 100 feet long, 1,000 square feet of pavement gets converted into building. So we have an 8,500 square foot warehouse building and a 4,000 square foot salt shed, whereas before we had 7,000 and 4,500. That's the net change. However, because we're making a site plan change, we basically have to open up that whole site plan. So we've submitted to you back pretty much everything that you got the first time, except we have updated drainage calculations that brought in those other field changes that we had encountered, plus documentation that we would take the roof water and put that into our infiltration system for the roof area, which then overflowed into the parking lot. So the net effect was it was always going into the ground anyways. It's just going into the first set of chambers as clean water, untreated, because it's coming off the roof. And there's less water going into the treatment unit before it goes into that infiltrated drainage system. We still have a rain garden at the bottom of the slope, so that doesn't change. One other thing that happened when we made the adjustments on the parking lot, there was one of the catch basins was located in a position that was a little bit further away from where the last parking space would be. That's best shown on that exhibit there. So this is the southwest corner. There's a small wedge about 18 by 20 that's been taken out. So 2 parking spaces get eliminated in that lower corner.
Here.
Right there at the bottom, correct. Because we want the curbing for the parking lot to be at the back of that catch basin versus trying to get water to go backwards. It's not going to want to do that, and it's just going to bypass. So we have more parking spaces than we needed. This was the more prudent way to address the field condition at the site. So the parking spaces now are 38, and 31 is required. So we still have more than enough parking spaces. Essentially, you're getting the entire set of drawings again. You got the drainage calculations back that we had originally submitted to FUS with a cover letter that explains about the treatment units, because they're getting a little bit less stormwater now, so they actually work a little bit better, as you might expect. That's pretty much it. I'm disappointed that Fuss didn't get our comments back because we really want to get the project going. There's still a lot of construction time to build these basically build these structures, and the goal is to be done this year. So the pavement's complete. We have left a sub-base condition for where the building's actually going, so it's going to be pretty easy to implement as soon as we get approval from you. I would ask that we can, obviously, if you have questions, we'll answer that, but I'm going to ask you to continue the meeting, hopefully 2 weeks, because then if us could get the comments in, maybe we could wrap this up. And Karina, if you need any extensions from me, I'll do it, but I think we're good, because it's a whole new application, time-wise. I think we have plenty of time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bemis. Mr. Stein?
Thanks for coming in, Peter. I have no questions, waiting peer review. Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan?
Thanks, Peter. I would actually agree. I was kind of surprised Fuss and O'Neill didn't get back because we've had like almost a month with this. I don't know when we actually submitted it to them.
Oh, I can tell you. So it was submitted to Fuss and O'Neill on February 20th, when the application was found to be complete and filed with the town clerk on the 19th. The next day, we sent it to Fuss and O'Neill to ask for a scope and fee.
Okay.
They didn't have the project ahead of time in order to determine what the modifications were, albeit they did. We are under contract for construction-based services from Fuss and O'Neill, because I would like to, I'm sorry to point this out, but there was never a pre-construction meeting. So Fuss and O'Neill was engaged very quickly prior to the request to pave the project before the plants closed last fall. So they went out there and had some review comments, and they've been working with Peter to resolve questions on clarifying that the drainage is actually working the way it should. So they responded quickly there, but they didn't get the modification plans until it was a complete application.
Okay.
And that was the 20th. We received a TA the following week, which we immediately signed when we had the checks, and then they got engaged to do the work.
Basically now just 2 weeks. Okay.
Right.
All
They
right.
did say that they anticipated soon. I check in with them on a regular basis.
So,
We'll get there.
yeah, so 4 weeks, I guess, it will be plenty with the March 24th. So I, of course, will have to wait for Fuss and O'Neill's, given the
I
fact that I
don't
don't have
expect
the
you to do it any other way.
experience background, so I have no questions. But thank you for the overview.
Okay.
Ms. Maria?
Hi, Peter. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the project and having the discussion, but I don't have any comments tonight.
Ms. Braccio?
Same here, Peter. Thank you for coming, and I'll wait as well.
Okay.
So I have comments.
Oh, you do?
My
You have a tree
My
comment?
favorite subject, trees.
Okay.
So there was a tree on the corner of the driveway. I think it was a 12-inch tree that it says save and maintain. It's been cut down. I took a little drive over there yesterday.
Oh, well, I don't know the story behind that. I'm sorry. If it was, an arborist firm did do the cutting, so if they saw some damage to it, we should have brought it to your attention, though.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing some sort of replication. Actually, we freed up that other corner. There's already one planted where it's close to where it was. Maybe we bring it to the other side and we give you some trees over there. Because now that I have a little island over there, probably be a good spot for a tree.
So that one, so that tree was on the plans that we just received, but there were several others from the approved site plan on the south border and one on the west that aren't showing up on those plans, and they've all been removed. In the south border, the remaining trees, that's how you met the requirement of the buffer
Yeah.
in our landscaping. But
Right.
they've been removed. There are some trees still left, but there are roots all sticking out, and they've all been severed. Yeah.
How about this? I'm not familiar exactly with what you're pointing out there, but if I just come back with a responsible assessment, because I don't know, I'll just take it on your face value.
So it's going to
that
require a 20-foot buffer of landscaping
Understood.
there.
Understood. Yeah, we don't want to see the recycling area.
On page 8 of 8, it still shows the brine storage units on the southern portion of the office, but they've been moved over to the west, correct?
We put them on the east side, so we're...
On the east, yeah.
Yeah. That fits there just fine on the east.
Yeah, but, so they shouldn't be showing on the,
Which one are they showing? On my plans, they're showing them on the east side. Is there one plan that shows them on the
yeah.
south?
On the-
Oh, the photomet, because we didn't run the photometrics again, because that's where it was when we started, so
I just like everything,
okay,
all the pages to,
okay.
Be in
yep,
sync.
Not a problem, not a problem. It's a contradiction, I agree with you.
and so the pre-construction meeting was a condition of the site plan.
I don't disagree. Mr. Crandall, didn't execute that, and I didn't babysit him to do so.
Okay.
So we've already kind of had that bloodletting event.
Okay, good.
So, yes, and,
But you
and-
did take pictures of
yeah,
the
and we took,
installation of the drainage.
all the inspections that were needed, we were there, Board of Health was there for their inspections. I mean, the things were documented right along the way. It's just unfortunate that FUS was not part of that process, but we did provide them with all the documentation. We provided them with as-bills, and I'll have to be a little bit more on top of
So, yeah, just so
the
he
owners from
understands,
now
although
on.
this is really fun for all of us
Well,
volunteers, we do
yeah,
expect our
I know.
conditions to be
I know.
followed through with.
I know, I'm sorry.
I think that's all I have. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Anyone on Zoom?
We have 5 attendees, 0 hands raised.
I make the motion to continue the public hearing for 200 Turnpike Road, contractor facility moderate to major site plan approval, and 200 Turnpike Road, contractor facility mod to special permit for lower impact development to March 24th at 7:05 PM.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brashear, yes.
Peter, as soon as those come in, I'll forward them to you.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
I usually do.
Okay.
It's right away.
The next item is a public hearing. 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows Major Site Plan Approval, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows Special Permit Lower Impact Development, and 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows Special Permit Major Residential Flexible Development. And Karina will update us.
Okay.
Okay. This is 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, public hearing number 7. Peter Bemis had provided submission number 3 on March 5th, revising the plans from 5 dwelling units to 6 residences, which include 2 duplexes now and 2 single families. The 2 duplexes were set back, and the 2 single families were pulled forward on the property. Also with a configuration of a horseshoe driveway and changes to the open space area. Submission 3 was provided to Fuss & O'Neill on March 7th for continued peer review, but as you're aware, Fuss & O'Neill said the changes were significant enough that it's a new project that we would require some supplemental review there. So I'm awaiting that TA so they can continue. An extension request has been signed by Peter to be voted on this evening by the planning board, to continue at some point after you're done discussing, and to extend the action deadline. And that is, in case Marty wants to read that. when the time comes. That's an extension vote at the end. That's your cheat sheet. As far as, let me see if there's any other information here. That's pretty much it. It's in with Fuss and O'Neill, and we're waiting for their TA, and then we'll proceed.
Welcome, Mr. Bemis.
Great, thank you. Peter Bemis, Engineering and Design Consultants, here on behalf of 39 Falmouth, Pine Falmouth, and William and Christine Poutre, who are the owner and the applicant of the project. So as Karina outlined, we have made some changes. They are somewhat substantial in that we're looking at this in kind of a totally different way here. The development is now 8.703 acres, and we have 4 buildings still, but 2 of these buildings that are set back will be duplex units, and then the 2 forward will be single-family. There's a 20-foot wide loop road that will bring you back on and off of Meadow Lane. That loop is basically a driveway to the site plan, to the site project. The 6 residential units occupy 1.59 acres, and the loop area is 11,350 square feet of the driveway. The common open space is 40.5%, or 153,000 square feet, and the naturalized open space is 75,000 square feet, or 20%. So we have 60.5% total open space with the project, which excludes all wetlands, pavement, soil absorption areas. And I will acknowledge that there is some underground piping through this area. They're going in different directions. There's a 2-inch force main. There's some 4-inch drain pipes, and I think the biggest one is like a 12-inch drain pipe. But for the most part, all of these areas have these pipes underground. There's very little surface relationship with it. In some cases, there's a drain manhole that comes to grade. But for all intent and purposes, if you were to drive by this, you would basically see open land, open space, green space. And my belief is that if you look at that in totality, that's what we're trying to create here, is the image of that valuable space to the visual and the accessibility benefit to both the neighborhood, the public at large, because now there's access to Valley Road, to the DCR land, and then to the lands that we're setting aside, basically, as part of the project. The rev we're on now is Rev 4. There are complete drainage calculations. In analyzing the project, or by reanalyzing the project, we went, and one of the comments you might have recalled was Fuss and O'Neill making a comment about looking at this in a bigger picture. We just figured it was easier just to do that now, since we had to start all over again anyways. We did it that way. So they should have less concern about that analysis going forward. We're significantly improving stormwater in all watersheds, east, west, north, south, because we're basically capturing all the stormwater that comes from our paved surfaces and our building areas, and we're infiltrating them before we allow them to discharge from the site on the peak rates, because most storms, there's very little water that will leave the site. So to kind of recap some of the features on the site, we do have an isolated wetland. That's what's shown there in that gray. That isolated wetland is being replicated at the back end of the site as a rain garden. Right now, if you were to look at that vegetatively, there's some sensitive fern and then some hydrophytic grasses. It's just really, it's just a poorly drained area along the edge of the runway. So what we're trying to create, though, is a more valuable resource area towards the back. And there will be both habitat and food source, particularly for birds and small mammals within what we're going to create in that space. And that's going to be part of the meadow that's there. So it'll definitely be able to provide a good opportunity for the birds and the critters in that section of the site, whereas the little isolated area up front isn't doing much other than handling some stormwater from a runway that shouldn't be there. Going through the orientation on the buildings, you can see that each driveway will come off of our proposed driveway. We do have a full loop. The grade is higher on the east than it is on the west, so it is going to come in from that high point and then grade down. We capture all the stormwater before it leaves the driveway. Our soil absorption system is located on the west. Each home will have a septic tank. Then it will go gravity to the back end of the site. The electric, telephone, cable services, they're basically looped around the road. All those details are on the plans. Not a great deal of cut to fill with this site as we had before. These homes are pretty much cut and fill balance and graded fairly nicely within the area where they are. We did provide a vegetated screen to our abutter to the west in the form of, again, I would ask you to allow me to use arborvitaes. If we had to, we could use, we would have to substitute and use, what the heck is it? It's junipers, and they're just not as effective a screen. So I would ask you to allow those arborvitaes along that edge. Those are green giants. And then the rest of it was, we did 3 plant species on the trees. It was an oak, maple, and I'm trying to think what the other one was. Sugar gum, sweet gum, excuse me. So we try to diversify that component of the site. The plan that's up in front of you now is that open space areas and with the different breakdowns of what each area is. So again, on an 8.5 acre site, we're really only building on less than 2 acres of it. And the rest of it's gonna look like open space, regardless of whether there's a utility going through it or not. And the utilities are in very small sections of it. I'm just trying to think of any other major changes to the plan. We did do a fire apparatus, so if you go to sheet 5 on the utility plan on the lower right-hand corner, we routed the fire apparatus through the roadway to ensure that that would be able to pass. It does. So for life safety, we've got that covered.
Can I ask you what truck you used?
Zach wrote it on there. I don't think I could, if I even take my glasses off, I don't think I could see it. It's what you would need to go through. He checked it.
For the largest ladder?
Yeah. Again, we updated some details. There's probably a couple of details that have changed. We did bring a water line into the development now for a fire service. So there's a fire hydrant actually on the driveway versus relying upon the hydrants that are close enough. We do have 2 of them. But rather than create a challenging, position, we've got these homes essentially on, 1/3 of an acre each. So it made sense to put a hydrant on this loop road. I don't think there's any other real change other than that. There's just more exhibits. Yeah, I would just be happy to answer any questions you may have. I realize, Fuss hasn't commented on this. The idea tonight was just to get the ideas on the table. And thank you for that opportunity. I'd rather have not just continued. This is good, too good to just be able to get the dialogue going. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Stein?
So, Karina, just want to make sure Fuss has the stormwater report. I mean,
Yeah.
based on the back and forth at the previous hearings on this item, it seems like the drainage is going to be a crucial part of the board's analysis, so.
Yes, Fuss and O'Neill does have the complete submittal, including the stormwater report.
Yeah, we want to make sure the peer review is thorough on that piece,
Okay.
as it would be for anything, but especially. Other than that, I don't have any questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Houlihan?
Hi, Peter, thank you. Okay, so also with Fuss and O'Neill is open space. Like, I want to make sure they are looking at that and do the calculations as well, just to make sure.
I sent them a very detailed, specific question, and pay attention to that
Perfect.
with the attorney, with the prior town council's opinions, and also identifying the definition of open space.
Perfect, thank you. And then, Peter, so it looks like the configuration obviously is completely changed. So we went from the duplex in the front, we've now got 2 in the back, we have 2 single units in the front. It's gone from 5 to 6. There was originally 5 lots. Is there still 5 lots? Because we still show 5 lots, but the duplex seemed to overlap Lot 3 in the back.
Okay, but it's one, the proposed development is one piece of, one property, 8.7 acres. So understand that there's just one parcel. There are exclusive use areas that we've defined. We're taking this probably a little deeper than you might normally get at this level, because we want to tell you how we're going to actually build this out. So each one of these home areas will have an exclusive use area, and they're, like I said, about 1/3 of an acre, 15,000, some of them maybe a little bit more. I don't think any of them are less. To get to that 1.6 acres of land. The conventional plan had the number of lots on it, which is part of the plan set, just to show you what can be built here. But that's not, we would much rather not to see that type of development here. I just think this is why you have this bylaw, is to try to put something on a smaller portion of the site and keep as much of this open land as possible. And so I really felt like we kind of came full circle. We tried a couple other things along the way. Some neighbors made some comments. It seemed like this was a better approach to put the duplexes in the back away from the neighborhood. They're going to still read and look the same way. I think it's a lot better project now than when we started. And that's good. That's what planning processes should do, is bring out a better project.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the feedback. I mean, obviously, this is new plan. I didn't get a
Totally
chance to
new.
look at it. We have some neighbors here. I'd love to hear their comments, too. I'm sure they haven't seen this plan either. So thank you.
Okay.
I have no more comments.
Ms. DeMaria?
Hey, Peter, thank you for coming in. No, I'm just excited to see the duplexes in the back. That was one of the first comments that were made by some of the abutters. I also really appreciate the thoughtfulness in thinking through about retaining the meadow. After all, it's in the name. But I'm looking forward to hearing more about it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Braccio?
Thank you, Peter, thank you. Just a couple quick things. I would hope that the Open Space Commission could possibly look at the plans and give us some of their feedback as well. I believe you've had conversations with them, general conversations anyway, so if you could just continue those, I think that would really be great.
Okay.
Also, it was nice to see some of the comments that have come up at some of the meetings were taken into consideration when you put this new plan together. So I thank you and the proponent for that. I think that's important as we move forward, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So the number of units is required to be proved out on a conventional plan, and I don't think you have 6 units. There's no way to get to the buildable portion of Lot 6. You need to be able to access the buildable portion of the lot, and you can't do that without going through the wetlands or the 20-foot no-touch. So I don't think you have 6 units.
Yeah, well, I guess I'd have to reconfigure some of the lot lines a little bit, but if that's the challenge, then I'll figure it out. But it's a good point, so I don't want to say no. I'll take it back, take your comment, and I'll have to address it.
Okay. Just a picky thing, because,
It's not picky.
well, no, the next thing is.
No, I'm with you. When, again, when, we went back and did this, I would say we tried to dot every I and cross every T, and it would have been nice to have heard that echoing off the walls in the office at the time, but we didn't. So, but I'm sitting here now, and I think I could probably do it. It will be ugly, but I think I can do it. Ugly doesn't always make sense, but ugly is maybe doable, so I'll have to figure it out, but
Right.
on the
We would've
surface,
told
you're
you,
absolutely
Peter,
right on the surface
Just to
right now.
interject, we would have told you sooner, but this didn't come up until,
Yeah, well,
Oh,
we-
no, it's,
we got the
I'm
plan
not,
on
I'm not
Friday.
taken back,
Yeah.
it's okay, that, you're doing your job, that's what this is all about.
So, so when I said picky, it's my next comment, not that one. So my
What's the
next,
picky one?
the next comment, so your replicated wetlands showed 3250 square feet on plan pages 3, 4, and 8,
Oh,
but
yeah.
3420 on page
That's-
9.
That's just going too fast, so. All right. That one, I'll take that one and we'll fix it. I don't know which one's right. I just don't remember.
Okay.
One of them's right.
Well, that's good. That's a good
I
start.
just don't know which one.
On page 6, the plant substitutions note
Oh, yeah, that's
has to
probably
be
something we have on all of
with
them.
approval of town planner.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Pick up on your part.
And I still am questioning how the driveway can be built over that utility easement. Because the easement says for passive recreation, agriculture, where am I?
Yeah. It has a number of things that they can use it for. So in other words, they're telling them what they can do. But the ownership of the ownership of the land still is prior to Mr. Poutre was his predecessor entitled. So basically, what his predecessor entitled did was give someone a right to do something within that space, but that's all that they can do. They can't do anything else to diminish the property. But Mr. Poutre has all the rights of use of it. He can't diminish their ability to use it for their purpose. That's it. They don't have an exclusive right
But
to use
so their purpose is to protect it for their septic. There's a pipe going under it.
Yes, and
So what happens if there's an issue there?
No, but what our design does is fulfill that. In no way will we diminish their use of that. But they can't take away our right to develop it or do anything with it, frankly. We can't obstruct that pipe. So we're accommodating it through this design.
But a driveway over it doesn't
Doesn't hurt.
obstruct
Yeah.
access to it?
No,
What
because
if
they could
there's
still.
a leak there?
They could still go and fix it. There'd just be an improvement above it that they would then be responsible to do. Their right isn't exclusive to them. I mean, then they would have just gotten the fee to it. They elected not to give them the fee. They only gave them the right of access and utility. So that's it.
Yeah, I'm concerned because you don't want anything to go wrong with that septic. It would be bad for a lot of people.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. So yes, there's provisions to protect it. It probably would be prudent for whoever does finally build this to maybe put a couple of sleeves in there, so in the event that they did have a failure, they wouldn't have to dig up this road. That could be done.
Peter,
That's
is
not
that
for
a
me to
gravity
decide,
line?
but I would probably suggest that. I'm
Is
sorry.
that a gravity line?
No, it's force main.
It's force main?
Yeah.
Are there special H20 loading requirements for force mains? That's what
They would
inch-
have had to be constructed to that
Would
level
have to be able
anyways.
to
because
hold
it-
that load.
Because it's a pressure sewer, so it would meet all of those standards anyways, and those ASTM standards. I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. Frankly, there's lots of them around. Your water lines is a pressurized water line to distribute it through your community. It happens to be, deeper, so is that. This pressurized line, it also has to be deeper, because they don't want it to freeze.
Yeah, it's much smaller too, so.
And it's very small, yeah, it's only 2 inches.
So on to my
Okay.
favorite subject.
The trees?
No,
Oh.
open space.
Oh, I think I got it this time.
So
though.
way-
I went
way
back to
better.
your
Thank you
definition.
very much.
Yeah, I
I
spent a
think
lot
it's-
of time contemplating, and I think, I meant to, I told you before I opened, I was going to apologize publicly, because every night you were saying the same thing, and I didn't have the benefit of town council's opinions. And after reading it.
You had the benefit of mine, though.
Yeah. After reading it, I was like, now I know why that was your mantra, so I'm good.
So I still question, I think that entire utility easement can't be included in the open space because the reserve rights are contrary to open space. And it's the same for that easement afforded to number 30 to allow for vehicle passage. It's over that whole easement area, not just that little 9,000 square feet.
But my point is that gentleman that's in that home, he is going to subordinate to that lower driveway width. He's not going to come back and expand to that. So we would be able to get that in writing, because
Okay.
we would do something, to a mutual benefit here. He just doesn't, I don't think that, because it would be really nice to eliminate it. I would love to eliminate it. But that's his access to that back garage that he
Well, I
has.
understand
And
him.
I feel badly to kind of go back and say, oh, by the way, we'd like to eliminate the whole thing. No, he's willing to at least bring it from 30 down to 12. That's not a bad trade-off.
Yeah, as long as it's understood that the remainder remains
will
in
stay.
its
Right,
natural
that's the
state, and
idea.
you can't drive on it.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's what we're trying to do. But I come back to those other pipes too, because it's 200 feet where the 2-inch force mains are. It's only 2 inches within that space. So I'm saying to you, from the surface, and no one's probably going to go there in our lifetimes, probably in our children's lifetimes, to do anything with that force main, because it should have been constructed in a manner that it shouldn't fail. But if it did, they would go in and fix it, but then it would go back and be exactly what it will be tomorrow, which is open space. So I'm just saying to you, I just don't see it diminishing the overall value of it. So if I
Well, and
take it out.
it's not just that, it's the whole, there's that whole reserve area. It's not just the,
No,
the
the
soil
way you're,
absorption
even your
system.
own definition, well, I think that does give you the ability to have an opinion about it. I'm trying to remember how it was actually worded. But the reserve area, in other words, you don't count both primary and reserve, because if you acted on the reserve, then the primary would go back into its natural state. So no matter what, you're always going to get one of those to go away. You don't get them both at the same time. So I would just say to you that, to me, that's a push, that no matter what, if you try to affect the reserve area, you're going to get back the primary area. If you're still in the primary area, then the reserve area is still going to be in its natural state. And I believe that the way the bylaw was originally constructed and drafted, that was thought out. So I would just say, if you take the big picture here, is that we're trying to create a project with 60% open space. That's a good thing. And I hate to focus on what could be perceived as a blemish. It's really not a blemish. The impediments are those drain pipes or sewer pipes, but they're very small. And they're likely to not have to be dealt with. If they are dealt with, the area is going to go back in its natural state again when we're done.
but it's
So-
not going to be the next day.
So there'd be a period of time. So what we could do is structure this in a manner that then put control back into the planning board and say, okay, if you are going to have to do something temporarily in those areas, you have a window, and you have to bring it back into that same natural state. I'd be fine with that kind of condition. I think that makes sense. But to lose the whole thing over that doesn't make sense. I just hate to revert back to a conventional plan and not get this kind of opportunity. That's all I would say.
So where I'm coming from is that these flexibilities are offered in the ability to do duplexes in exchange for the open space. So we need to make sure that the open space is what is required. I
Right,
think we're very close.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, the
I'll ponder
moment you
your
do.
arguments.
Yeah, all right, think you contemplate what I'm saying. But the other thing about this is, it didn't, I think it was the moment that we put all of the units without having their own independent lots. The moment we did that, it was multifamily, regardless of whether it was a duplex or a single. That's the other thing that I think the bylaw maybe missed, and that's maybe why a lot of people never tried to do this. And we were successful at Boston Road. It's hard. This is really hard to do, having gone back over this again, because actually when I took your definition and I went back, I was like, oh, damn, none of these other plans work anymore. Now we really got to start from scratch, and that's why this plan evolved this way. Because I was just like, we basically boxed ourselves in and said, how much land can we really work on? And then, what are we gonna need to do this? It's very, very difficult to achieve it. Because you need to provide access, so we're losing 11,000 square feet just to be able to get a vehicle to that front door. And then, I don't think you can really get a house of this size on anything smaller than a third of an acre. Sure, we could probably make the houses a little bit smaller, but they'd be far less marketable and probably less desirable to the neighborhood overall, so.
Fortunately, you're very creative.
I think on this one, I think we've been very creative, and I'll have to give Zach a lot of credit. He's the one who stayed up painstakingly nights and mornings to try to figure this out, because on the surface, it was almost like throw it and just, no, don't come back, let's just do a conventional plan. So,
The other thing, that little 10-foot strip of open space, I understand why it's there to, from the road
where are you
to
seeing
the
that?
larger portion.
we did 2 strips to get in and off the road. Yes, again, it was just another access.
Right, so I understand why it's there. I'd like to see a little fence or something there, otherwise it just becomes part
Yep.
of yards.
Yeah, I've mentioned that to Mr. Poutre, so,
And then in
I
the
agree
middle
with
of the little horseshoe, is that going to be like a park or something?
Again,
Some
there's,
trees.
just so we are clear, there are some stormwater chambers under that, but yes, I see it that way too. That's why I said this is going to look really good.
Okay.
The pink area in the front, it's because that's where the pump station is for the residential neighborhood there at Meadow Lane. So that has to kind of stay in the condition it's in. There's a little driveway, there's their small building there. But behind it, it's going to be, a meadow, and I think it's going to look good.
In the naturalized open space, is that going to be planted, or how's it going to naturalize?
It's pretty naturalized now. If you feel like it needs to have something else to define it, but to be honest with you, it's a math game, because the way your formula is too, you can't have too much naturalized, you can't have too much open. So you back into it. We had to back into it, because you need 20%.
Right.
So only a certain percentage of it has to be naturalized. If you have too much of that and you don't have enough of the other, you need more. It doesn't work. So it's really it's a mathematical formula, and we tried to do
So
it
is that in the state that it's going to remain? By
Well-
naturalized, that means there's going to be some action. That's how.
I got it. So I'm just saying to you that right now, if you were to walk out there, we just drew a line. So it's like the Mason-Dixon line. Do you know when you cross it? There's a sign that tells you that. Well, we put a sign there and tell you you've passed from the open space to the naturalized zone, or we do something different. No, without a doubt. I'm here to listen. So maybe we have to put some trees there and create like a colonnade and say, okay, this is
Well,
one area to the other.
I'm not particularly concerned that there's a demarcation between the two types of open space, but
Okay.
just the term, I'm trying to understand what that means.
It's your formula, so we were just backing
So,
into it.
well, in the code, it says natural open space, but you have naturalized. So to me, that says that
Oh,
you're
I
going to
follow
do
you.
something.
Well, yeah, we thought we would have to do something to say this is where it is. So I figured we'd have a different marker. Because I also thought about, if you, like on a meadow like this, if you just let it stay meadow, it's not going to stay meadow for a long time.
Right.
Because the opportunistic woody shrubs are going to start
Right,
to take
yeah.
over. And all of a sudden, you're going to probably have a lot of arrowwood, and some of these other things out there.
So it's a meadow now?
It's meadow now, yeah. The whole thing is pretty much meadow now, except for where the wetlands are. There's definitely trees and shrubs that have grown up in that area. So
Well,
the
that's-
naturalized on the left of the driveway there, so this east-south area, that's pretty much trees. You go there today, you'll see trees and shrubs there.
So that's
Very
just
little open.
natural.
And that
open
one's not,
space.
that one's pretty much natural. Down in the wetland in the lower, the west-north corner there, northwest corner, that's, again, there's trees and there's shrubs in the wetland itself. When you start to get to the outside of it, it starts to turn back to meadow, the further away you get from that wet area. But there's nothing out there that if you were to walk tomorrow, you'd just walk through and you wouldn't know the difference. So
Yeah,
we
well, I
can
don't.
define it.
So I don't think you need to. That's not.
Okay,
I was just that term says to me
Yeah.
that you were going to amend it in some way.
I just
But
feel
you're
like
just leaving it as it is, as natural.
we're gonna wanna have a plan for mowing, though. If you don't mow this every now and then, it's not gonna stay a meadow. So we have to make
Right.
that decision.
An
too.
annual mow, yeah.
Yeah, if it's annual or biannual, every other year, however you wanna look at it.
Yeah.
It just, at some point, you do need to maintain these areas. I have
Hopefully
to say,
we'll-
no one's done it in a long time, so it's probably been, I don't know, when Peter Calander passed away, I don't know anyone who's done much out there since. But, so it hasn't really reverted, but it will revert to a woodland soon enough, if nothing's done.
Okay, thank you, and hopefully we'll get comment
Yeah.
from the Open Space Preservation Commission. Sure.
Peter, and just for a heads up, when you look at your conventional layout for Lot 6, just bring your attention to the dimensional requirement for a circle passing from the
I was looking at that, Corinne, at the same time,
It's
when I
very
was thinking
close, but
about it.
not quite.
Yep, I know.
So for it to be a buildable lot, so that's the
I gotta look at that.
And then the second thing is, this wetland, right here, this is the replication area, right?
Just from the, yeah, pretty much. All the way down into the northwest is the wet, but the channel going back, that's gonna be created by us. There's a line there where they separate from what's flagged and what's not.
So it's my understanding there's a water line here somewhere. Do you know if it's on?
Yeah,
property or off?
no, it's north. It's off Locust.
It's off the lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so it won't be impacted?
No.
You just didn't want replication on top of the
No,
water?
it's not, yeah, it's off Locust. There's no easement on our property for that.
Okay, and then, I guess that's it. We'll wait for any other town comments.
Yeah,
When
okay.
they come in, we'll forward them to you.
So if the neighbors want to make comments, or,
Sorry?
I don't know if any neighbors or anyone else wants to make comments.
you should-
Yeah, I'll let.
Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments?
Hi, David Williams, 25 Middle Lane. I think I asked this before, but the peer review by Fuss and O'Neill, what are the areas that they examine in terms of the peer review? Are they, I know they had comments about drainage. Do they look at the open space as well?
They should look at all the code.
Okay.
They were lacking in their last review comment letter.
Okay. And do they have any perspective on your concern regarding, a driveway over where we have an easement? Or is that something they're probably not gonna look at?
Well, in an email to them, I did point out the definition does call out what's allowed in open space.
Okay,
Pretty specifically, not used for drives, parking, storage, or display. Wetlands, ponds, and man-made retention areas shall not be considered open space for the purpose of calculating the requirements of this bylaw. Subsurface sewage disposal systems shall not be allowed within designated open space except that areas designated for reserve or expansion of an individual shared system shall be allowed only if, in the opinion of the Board of Health, no other options are available, or if, in the opinion of the Planning Board, it would be beneficial to the overall layout of the development. So I've brought their attention to it,
okay.
pretty
And-
detailed.
What, do you have an expectation when they would come back with that? I think you might have mentioned that early on, the peer review.
Yes, so I'm waiting for a new task authorized, like a new scope and fee from them,
Okay,
because the project changed enough
right,
where it's almost like a new project with a lot of changes.
yeah,
So they performed some review already and some additional review for the second submission there. So we're waiting for that. I expect that probably early next week.
okay,
And then usually the reviews take at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks.
right, right.
And as soon as they come in, if you want a copy, just
Yeah.
let me know, and I'd be happy to forward you a copy.
Okay,
All right, we also will post it in the packets.
okay, yeah, I appreciate the communication stuff.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Williams?
You may.
You're an engineer, aren't you?
I am?
And so do you have any opinion over driveways, over
I'm not a civil
utility
engineer.
easements? Oh,
So, if you asked me something about a beam, I might be able to answer it, but
Oh.
no, I'm not a civil engineer, so
Sorry.
I can't, I can't offer anything, thank you.
yeah, I don't know, that just concerns me, but,
Yeah, understood, and I think we would like to be, very clear on what comes out of that, so. Okay, that was all, thank you.
thank you.
Tom Purcell, 29 Meadow Lane. First, a question. The space designated as open space, after the project is done, who owns that property?
I don't think that has been decided. Would it be the homeowners association?
Yeah, this, we weren't going to do this any other way, because we'd have to create another boundary. So this would be an HOA.
Okay. So the land that our leach field is on and the reserve area, the ownership of that would transition to the HOA? Okay,
That's right.
all right, just,
And they'd be required to uphold the conditions that
Yeah.
are required of the open space.
yeah. A couple things I want to point out on the plan. One is that green area that has the wetlands in it to the right, yeah. That is a hill. You know, that's a steep hill that comes down from the houses. You've asked Mr. Poutrey's colleague here a number of questions about the property, and I want to comment on a couple of the answers. The area to the north of our leaching field, which is in pink, I think, that is also that is not a meadow. That is a steep hill that goes down to the golf course, and there are and have been trees growing on that, you know, that are actually growing all the way to the edge of our leach field. And I know that we talked about putting the leach field reserve on the plan, the reserve area. Is there a reason why that didn't happen?
Through the chair, I don't mind putting that on. We're just trying to define what is the areas not being calculated. So that's the purpose of this exhibit, was to designate what's open space, what's not, and, you know, what's out. But I'd be happy to show it. I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, because
Our leaching area, they're in common. Our reserve and our primary are together. They have a situation where their reserve and primary are separate from each other. So, yeah, I can do that.
I think we want Fuss and O'Neill to know that. Mr. Poutrey's associate here has pointed out that we would never be using both the reserve and the primary. I'm not sure that that is accurate. You know, if we had issues where we would need to expand and keep what we have in place, that is a possibility. So, you know, counting our reserve area, which, quite frankly, 8 years ago, we got estimates to move our leach field over to the reserve area. So the possibility is not only real, you know, it's possible that in the future, we would need to use that and possibly use the existing area.
So, can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
So is the reserve area right within that easement there?
No, so if you see the easement in pink there,
So
that
the
is.
easement is that dotted line?
Through the chair, it's definitely there. He may not know where it is, but it's there. I can tell you it's just to the west of what's there. It looks
Okay.
the same as that. I'll be happy to
Identical
show it
size,
on
yeah.
there, but you're either using your primary or you're using your reserve. is contemplating something way above that, if maybe it's something bigger than the whole thing, but that's not what the bylaw is looking to do. No, even your own definition contemplates a reserve area being allowed to be in the open space. All I'm saying is that we're not counting it twice. We're only counting it once, like it should be.
All right.
Okay.
So the bylaw speaks for not counting a reserve area. Is that correct?
So it does not allow the soil absorption system,
Yeah.
and it can allow the reserve area
Okay.
if approved by the Board of Health. If the Board of Health says that the open space can go no place else, and this board says that it's the best design of the project or something. So it's not a yes, it allows it.
Okay.
It's a maybe.
So we need to get the Board of Health to determine that?
Well, the proponents would if they want that included in the open space.
Okay, all right. If the proponents want that included in the open space, how would we involve ourselves in that discussion with the Board of Health? Would they reach out to us?
I don't think that they do butter notifications or anything. They just have post. And this may just be a conversation, I don't know if, with the what's he called? Public health.
Yeah, they're familiar with our issues. They're familiar with the issues with our leach fields. So would you recommend that we talk to them about this proactively?
Sure, you're free to
Okay.
do whatever you want.
All right, good, good. So it's also not on the plan, but that white space next to our leaching field, there are 2 additional leaching fields there. Well, it's 1 leaching field, but it's 2 separate soil absorption systems. Just so we know what we're dealing with here, I know this has been characterized as a meadow, and a lot of it is, our leaching field, the leaching fields next to it, and the wetlands that were created by the development that was built on Meadow Lane. Lastly, I just wanted to throw out there, in this whole discussion, I've never heard Mr. Poutre or his associate here talk about the impact to the assets that are on this land. And in fact, just the last comment where Mr. Bemis here said that he was going to plant some trees over where the inside of the driveway. That's where our easement is, right? I'm not sure we want, people planting trees over where our septic pipes are, right? So it concerns me a little bit that when this group comes up with plans, there's no consideration for the existing assets. And they have, I think, a plan for stormwater, right? But there's actually issues with groundwater, right? And I would like to ask that when we have Fuss and O'Neill look at this, that we get some testing done on the groundwater, right? Right in the middle of the lot that is right in the middle of that horseshoe there. When it rains, water comes out in the middle of that lot and then drains out to the street. And this is a problem in the neighborhood. I have the same problem in my property. I have water that comes out from the ground and pops out of my driveway and then flows down the driveway. My neighbor at 31 has water that comes in front of his driveway, and any of the neighbors will attest that the entire driveway and the sidewalk is a sheet of ice. Anytime there is a rain and then a freeze, because what happens is the water continues leaching from the ground long after it stopped raining, and if it freezes, it's a sheet of ice. I took a video the other day, and it's a timestamp video, so anyone can see it if you so care to see it, of the water that was coming out of the horseshoe area, frozen all the way down the street. You could tell that in the video, it clearly shows that there was no water coming from the street uphill. It was all coming off the lot. There was no other frozen area on the entire street. There was only one spot, and it was coming from the middle of that horseshoe. So I'm not sure if this is protocol to do this type of testing with this type of development, and I'm sure it's not, right? But because of the assets that we have on this property right now, I think that we should do that. And I think that we should have some sort of remediation plan for if there is groundwater that's moving either into our pump tank or our treatment tank that is on the left-hand side of the horseshoe, or if there is groundwater because of the development, groundwater being redirected to our leach field, we need some way to protect that. Right now, we are sitting ducks. And I don't really have any, I'm not opposing this plan per se, but the plan is about, it has nothing to do with protecting our assets. And honestly, when this property was purchased at a discount because of the fact that the person who sold this to Mr. Boutray knew that this was going to be difficult to develop this property without a serious impact to our assets. I love the idea of throwing houses there. I actually do. I think it's, I'd rather have houses there than a vacant lot. But I want to do it in a responsible way. And I think a responsible way would consider our assets. And I just haven't heard any of that. And that's really my number one concern. We keep, when the plan is presented, Mr. Bemis never talks about what's on the land already, right? He's talking about the birds and, the open space in the meadow. And, I like birds, I like open space.
That was my fault, because it's my favorite subject.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit more concerned, and we all should be, with, whether we're going to be able to have a successful septic system than the birds. And I care about the birds, don't get me wrong. And I love the idea of the open space. I don't characterize the land over our leach field, which is roped off, by the way, as open space. I don't characterize the reserve area as open space. It's just, I don't think that's the type of open space that's not what I consider open space. But that'll be for you guys to decide. So my ask, and again, and I think I asked this last week, is I would like to have some sort of impact assessment done on our existing assets. And that would require really taking a significant look, or a deeper look at the groundwater issues that exist. The plan addresses surface water, drainage, right? And that's great. That could be a potential problem, but we already have groundwater that's coming down from the hill. We talked about this initially, and I don't want people to forget about this. Anything that is in a lower elevation than the Carriage Hill condos is a problem with water. It is just, anybody will tell you. So I'll show you, and I can also show you guys pictures of an airplane hangar that used to be on the property that for months had what I would characterize as a pond in front of it, right? The water went nowhere. And the reason the water went nowhere is because water does not leach in this neighborhood. Again, I can show videos, I can show pictures, and I'm not quite sure how to get this point across any clearer. We need to look at this prior to putting anything on this property. And I think it would be irresponsible for us to let this happen and give special permits when we know this situation is a ticking time bomb. And it's not about stopping development. It's not. It's really not about stopping development. It's about doing the right thing. And I think the fair thing, if you buy this land as a discount and you're trying to maximize your profit now, I'm comfortable with maybe a different plan that might not produce as much revenue for Mr. Boutray. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I just respond to a couple of points?
Sure.
I'll be very brief. That was not. The first point I would make is that there's an acre of pavement that's out there today that does not have a management to its surface water. The area that Mr. Purcell is referencing is a low point in the site where it is trapped. The grade is below the road. So of course it's going to trap, and it's going to trap surface water, in particular this time of year, because the frost is coming out of the ground, but there is a frozen layer below that top layer. So it is not going to percolate. It's going to just take all that concentrated flow and bring it to one spot, the low spot. So he's going to see a picture. I'm fine with that. I know what the situation is. But that's not what it's like every day. We did do soil testing with the Board of Health agent present. We gave you a groundwater contour map for the site. It's done. You can't just say a lot of things and then expect all of that to be truthful statements. The drawings speak for themselves. Let the peer review engineer look at them. I don't think you're going to find anything wrong. We would have every right to plant a tree right at that edge of that dashed line right there. I wouldn't elect to do that. I never said we would do that. That wouldn't be prudent to do. So again, it's not factually correct just to make the statement. I just want to make sure that people understand. The drawings have been well thought out. We're going in the right direction. The only other point that I wanted to make with you, or I'd like to get on the table, was that the 6 lots that we drew, I'm not sure about that 6th lot for the lot shape requirement. So I'm going to stand to try to leave tonight with at least that on the table. But I believe the way your definition reads is that we would have 5, and I do believe that you do allow the flexibility with the duplex units, because we're not increasing the bedroom area, we're not increasing the footprint of the building. So I'm just not sure how that, I'll have to go back and read the definition again, but in the spirit of where you want to go with this, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that if it does go down to 5, you know, you folks have the ability to interpret the duplex component, because it's really more of a planning board, you know, decision-making part. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. 'Cause
So, well, I
that would
think
be important.
the lots are, the lots and/or units are proven out in the conventional plan, and that's the number of units or lots that you get. You're only one lot, so you get the number of units that you can show on the conventional plan.
Right. So we have 5 lots, but of those 5, let's just say if we have 5 lots, and those prove out, and I can't get the 6th lot, don't you have the ability to then interpret the duplex component of that? I mean, are you thinking?
Well, so that's 2 units, the duplex.
Mhm. Okay.
So on the
So no matter
conventional
what.
plan,
All
I
right,
see
all right.
5 lots
Yeah, okay, fair
and/or
enough.
units.
Okay, all right, I'll just have to go back and look at that 6th unit then. You know, if the road has to be longer or whatever we have to do, so, all right, fair
Okay.
enough.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, hi. I just briefly, I wanted to sort of defend a little bit what Tom Purcell was saying, because I've seen in the lot that is to the right of where we have the pumping station and the tanks in the ground, that's uphill from there, and there will be no water anywhere else. I've lived there long enough to see it. Water will be coming out of that lot. It's just an example of how it doesn't really, the water problems that we have there. So you might be quibbling over exactly where it is, but this is
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
understood.
hyperbole.
Understood. In Fuss and O'Neill,
Yeah.
we'll look at that and look at all the calculations and question anything that doesn't make.
Yeah, I just wanted to just raise the point. It wasn't a depression. I mean, it comes out of a hill there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sure.
Peter, did you do a test bit at the infiltration basins? Do you have test bit data?
We have test bits in different areas on the site.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll talk
we
about
we designed this based upon the underlying soil condition, which is an acceptable way of doing it under DEP stormwater management guidelines, because we're using the imputed rate. We're not using a more aggressive rate when we did this. And actually, we're doing more than we actually technically need to do. As I've said to you before, we could just let the water go, because we're eliminating an acre of pavement, and we're putting back less than that. But we're not doing it that way.
Let's talk, I'll talk to you after I talk to Fuss and O'Neill,
Okay,
just to cover that.
okay, sure. Yeah, yeah.
If it's a new, if it's a brand-new comment,
It is.
but
It is.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tom Purcell, 29 Meadow Lane. I don't see it on the plan, but there's an easement that the condo association up the hill has. They have a utility easement that goes, basically covers I think it's under the existing runway.
It's on the
So,
plan, Mr.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
Okay, all right. I can't see it. All right.
Mr. Purcell has a lot of comments. I mean, if he wants to put them in writing, I'll be happy to answer every one of them. It's very difficult to do it in this rambling manner that he has. So if he would like to articulate any of his points, I will address every one of them. I wouldn't ignore a comment from an abutter. But they need to be on point and be precise, because I believe the drawings do address the concerns that he has. I do believe his assets are protected.
All right, Pete.
In no way are we not protecting the abutter's assets, any of the abutters, regardless of whether it's his neighborhood or the people who live in the other homes that are there.
So
Thank you.
just to answer your question on the multifamily requirements.
Right.
The number of dwelling units allowed shall be governed by the provisions of subsection D1. And D1, where'd it go? Oops. And D1 says the number of lots or units shall not exceed the number of lots in the conventional plan.
Okay, yeah, units then. Okay, so understood.
Shall be in full conformance with zoning, subdivision regulations, and health codes.
Right.
Anyone else? Anyone online?
We have 5 attendees,
No hands?
no hands.
So I have a question on the extension. So we're extending to March 24th.
Oh, no way. We're going, yeah, I told Karina that we had to do that, I think, Matt, there was something in what Colleen had sent, but you got the right one?
The meeting.
Yeah, shall be continued to
Because
March
if,
24th, but I don't know if.
no, FUS doesn't have what I was going to say to you is I don't mind it, because I know Mr. Poutre wants to keep this moving, so we could continue the 24th, but understand if we don't get comments back, then there's no sense to me, because I think you understand the project now. We need their comments back before we do anything further.
So the concern is that the next meeting after March 24th is April 28th because
Oh,
we
boy,
have
because
a
it's town meeting. Well, that's what it is.
And in your, the decision deadline is May 2nd, which doesn't give us much
Right,
to work
understood.
with.
Yeah, so we could fix that tonight, if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that I'd like, if FUS, for some miraculous reason, gets their comments done, because they have nothing else to do in the next week, great. I tend to doubt it, but let's just try.
I don't think they will.
I don't think so either.
Okay, and then that has to be signed. I mean, then you have to provide the
All right,
supplemental
well,
fee and blah,
just,
blah, blah.
can I just finish? Mr. Pedro, are you fine? Because they're not going to have it.
At this point, let's go to May 2nd, and then if need be, we'll worry about that after May.
So
The
May,
meeting,
Go to April 28, but then your decision period, they need to
Well, we
push that
can,
out.
so do you want to go to March 24th?
no.
Or
No,
you?
I'm willing to skip that.
Okay,
I
so
just don't.
April
I think
28th, so you just
April
want to leave
28,
it.
right, and
on
we could
April
leave it where it
28th,
is,
we'll look
knowing
at
that
the
on April
decision
28, we have to bump you out, probably, because we won't necessarily have everything addressed in time, but maybe we do.
Okay,
It's a whole month.
so on the 28th, we'll revisit that May
let's just
2nd
do that.
decision deadline if,
Okay.
okay.
so this will change.
And I would say that if any abutter or any other concerned citizen has a comment and they want to get them in, go through Karina, and then we will have that addressed for the 28th as well. It's not
So
just FUS.
Send
so
anything to
if you-
Karina,
yeah,
and she'll
Absolutely.
forward it to Mr.
I
Bemis.
would be glad to address it.
Thank you, Peter.
There's your cheat sheet.
Thank you. So I make a motion to move, why do I keep saying that tonight? Continue the public hearing for 26 Meadow Lane. Major site plan approval, special permit lower impact development, and special permit major residential development / flexible development to April 28th, 2025 at 7 PM. Oh, we could,
Is it 7 PM?
we don't have anything else scheduled for the 28th. This is the first time I've said the 28th. But is there
Second
a
for
time
discussion.
So the question is, would it be 7 PM or would we do 6:30?
What'd you say, Jesse?
I seconded Marnie's motion for discussion,
Oh, okay.
because we're getting to the end of my term here.
Oh, dear.
There's an election in
When's that?
mid-May. I mean, if this lingers on after, we just need to have that discussion at this time now.
I don't think we can
Because
change
there
much
are
because of your already
certain-
committed dates, but do you
There
have
are
another
certain
date after
permits
that?
that require a minimum of 4 out of 5.
Right, the special permit.
So in whoever it is, the quote-unquote winner of the election will be not eligible to participate.
Right,
Do you know your
So-
meeting schedule after the 28th at this point?
yeah, we know the whole year.
Okay, so do you know when the election is?
When's the election, Jesse, do you know?
I don't, I'll look it
It's
up.
May
Like May
something.
15th, usually around there. Town elections.
So we're going to have at least one meeting after the 28th.
May 12th is our next after that. Oh, on the
Oh,
13th.
boy.
So we have
Yeah,
two.
it's May 13th, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
so you'll have the 28th
we have two meetings.
and the 12th.
And you can only do a,
So I just want to make sure the proponent understands
Yeah.
the implications here of,
Okay,
effectively, what you'd end up with is needing,
All
I mean-
votes,
Right.
unanimous for the remaining 4.
right.
yeah. So that was the only point of me raising this discussion, is for
Thank
the
you.
proponent to be fully informed.
Yeah. Well, and I thank you for that. I don't think we can change anything because you just don't have the comments, so I just don't see the 24th being
Right,
a possible meeting at this point.
right.
So what we would do, though, is get the comments back, and we'd have time to address them, so that coming up on the 28th, we should be, trying to get close to that fine line of where we need to be. So I think it's still realistic to be done.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Poutre?
Hi, I'm the applicant, William Poutre. I'd like to respectfully request that we don't continue at this point until that period. Let's stay on at this point until the 24th of March. Those comments from the neighbors hopefully have been received at that point and could be addressed by Peter Bemis, and we can be left with just the Fuss and O'Neill comments at that following meeting. I think, and if we have no comments, then we can continue without testimony, right? We can continue without testimony if there are no comments, or we can have that meeting and discuss those and at least get that out of the way so that when we get to that April 28th meeting, we'll be down to the Fuss comments. That's what I'm respectfully requesting.
Okay. We'll have to change this again.
okay, so the challenge is with that, right, is that's a Monday. That gives us 13 days. So if the residents give their comments back, I mean, Peter, I know you have other things on your plate. That might, if we say Friday by a deadline, the 14th, that gives you 5 days to turn around comments. Not really, because it would be good for us to see that versus being surprised on a weekend, because that's when, it just makes it challenging for us to have a few days before. So, I mean, I'd love to accommodate. I just want to make sure that's a reasonable timeline. And maybe we give the residents the Thursday, the 13th, if we could give you, to the 19th to respond and then share your feedback to us. So we have 2 days prior to.
Whatever it needs to be at this point. We've put a lot of invested time into the project as it is, so I just want to get it right.
Yeah, and I think the comments are from the neighbors are pretty important.
Yeah, don't disagree.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, sorry, Bree Charbonneau, 22 Meadow Lane. I hear you, but I think as a neighbor, I'm sitting and observing it all tonight and listening, and wasn't going to have comments, but I think that it's only fair to the neighbors to also be able to read what Fuss and O'Neill has to say,
I
and to
agree.
be able to respectfully comment after reading that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't like to be excluded from that.
Yeah, so
It all
honestly,
goes
I
on our
think that's
website.
probably makes most sense, is just get the comments back. Bill, I know you want to keep it moving, but let's just do it this way. It's going to be easier.
I guess my point is, we wouldn't exclude their ability to talk about any comments that are brought up by Fuss and O'Neill. Let's just get, if they're here, let's address them. And if they're not, if they don't have any comment, I'm not saying if the Fuss and O'Neill pieces are here. If they have comments about the Fuss and O'Neill stuff that comes up on the 28th of April, they have the same right on the 28th of April to make comments that anybody else would have. What I'm saying is, let's leave that day open, with the hope that we can get some of the issues or questions taken care of if there are any and have been submitted. And if there aren't, then we're down to the Fuss and O'Neill comments. And when those come in, everybody has the right to comment on those. Just like Peter would do on my behalf, the neighbors have a right to comment on their behalf. So
Mr. Poutre, as long as you understand that this may not play out the way you're saying it.
I understand. I understand that we might get nothing, and therefore there's no reason for testimony, and typically Karina would call us, or we would be in contact with her, and she would say to us, is there any reason for testimony? And if not, we'll continue to that next meeting. I'm just saying tonight, let's not just throw away March 24th until we need to. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we shouldn't extend the deadlines. That's fine. Let's extend the deadlines that are there. I just want to give everybody the opportunity. Jesse, as you have said, I want to have all 5 people have the opportunity to be able to make a judgment. And the way that we're going to do that best is if we can be prepared fully,
Yeah, and as long as you understand, if we get the comments on Friday afternoon, we're not going to, the board may decide we don't want to.
And I respect that. I'm not asking you all to
Okay,
spend your
great.
entire
Thank
weekends.
you.
That's not what I'm trying to do
Why
here at
don't
all.
why don't we move along now and vote on, this was a discussion item for a motion, so let's.
Yep, and I just want to confirm before we move on to the voting. So Jesse will still be here through May 12th. And then after that, if he's no longer here, whoever's here, you have to get the 100% of the remaining 4 to vote in favor of this.
That's why I'm trying to push it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be overly aggressive. I'm just trying to respect.
Just making sure we're all understanding the situation.
So where'd we land on the?
Okay, so now we're going to say, I move to strike my former motion. So I am making a motion to continue the public hearing for 26 Meadow Lane major site plan approval, special permit lower impact, and special permit major residential development / flexible development to 7:15 on March 24th, 2025.
Okay, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Stein, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brashear, yes.
Thank you all.
We need to extend the action deadline.
No, we're doing that.
On the 28th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's on there. I mean, that's the date on that form. So the date for, we have to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But before you leave, that many seconds that I wasn't voting on.
We're not going to extend it. You don't want it extended. Sorry.
We haven't been extended to the day? No.
Oh.
Continue the public hearing, but you still need to extend the deadline to act.
Oh, okay. So what is the deadline to act right now?
So
We have to extend it.
currently it is,
March 20, oh no, it doesn't, okay.
so you have, it's always
Okay.
4 days after the public hearing in order to have
Agreed.
timeframe.
Okay.
So you can push it out as far as you want. You can close
So we need to extend it. Are we extending it to May 2nd, or do you want to push it out further?
I'm fine with that. I don't want to
beyond that.
That's what's here.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion to extend the public hearing until May 2nd, 2025. Oh, sorry,
It's the,
26 Meadow Lane. Major site plan approval, special permit, lower impact development, and special permit, major residential development, flexible development, extension, continue for decision through May 2nd, 2025.
I second.
so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Muriel, yes.
Brasher, yes.
Thank you.
So just so I understood, we just extended the decision deadline to May and continue the public hearing to March 24th at 7:15 with those two motions.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
Yeah.
In that case, my fellow board members, have a good night.
Good night, Jesse.
Good night, Jesse, thank you.
See ya.
Are you here for 264 Corderville?
Yes.
So do we want to take that next? The hearings we have to take because they're scheduled times.
Yeah,
But
no, I get
the
it.
discussions we can move
I'm
around.
hoping it's not as big of a deal as what they're doing.
This one's a little more straightforward.
So the next item on the agenda, we're going to reshuffle a little bit, is a discussion item 264 Corderville Road sign application. And Karina, if you can update us?
Sure. So, if you recall, 264 Corderville went through site plan either a year and a half ago or so. So there's a new tenant now, and he is proposing to put a sign back up over the garage bays. Elliot Fontaine, he is now has the Operation Fine Automotive Services, the new tenant. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my thoughts straight here. So there used to be an old wall sign up above the garage bays. You can kind of still see the shadow print of that. So Elliot would like to, he's right now has applied for a special permit to put a sign back there. And he wants to put the same size back, but he needs a special permit because that sign that was there was bigger and higher than residential B allowed. So he's before us today to ask for a planning board report to the zoning board. And you each have one in your packet, and it describes the 5 things that the planning board would opine on and provide recommendations. So in the application, it showed what the sign will look like. There's also a picture of where the sign is proposed, and that is the old tenant's sign right there. So that one is no longer there, but it will be replaced with your new
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, the same
Yeah.
same everything.
Right. Welcome, Mr. Fontaine. If you have anything else to add there, feel free.
Oh, no, just,
Okay.
yeah. Of course.
So is this auto sales or service?
It's service right now.
And is it going to remain service?
I don't know yet. I feel like there's maybe too many, used car dealers in the world, and they need more technicians. So for now, I'm just doing auto repair.
Okay.
I know it's zoned for like 2 cars, and I really don't want to do more than that if I do. I really care more about the service part of it.
Okay.
I think
The
you
only
need to pull
reason-
the microphone.
Oh,
up.
sorry, it's like bouncing back, I don't know. first time.
The reason I ask is there was an approved site plan for,
Yeah, that was to bump it up to like 18
Yeah.
cars or something.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not looking for that.
So that would need to be complied with before
Yeah.
you bumped up to that many. Okay, just as long as that's understood.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't want to do 18 cars.
Okay. Ms. Houlihan?
I have no questions. The application was thorough. I'm good.
Ms. DeMaria?
Thank you for coming in. I like your sign.
Oh, thank you.
And I agree, the application was very nice. I have no problems with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Braccio?
Thank you. I also have no problems with it. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm in that area myself, so.
Nice. Stop by and say hi.
I'm telling you, it's nice to see, something going in there again, so thank you.
Yeah.
And you may want to sell more used cars with the tariffs going on new cars.
No one's
There
going to
may
want to
be a
buy
big
them.
market. So the questions are, the subject sign includes one proposed sign at the same scale as previous signs at the location. I say yes.
Yes.
Number 2, the sign size, shape, and placement serve to define or enhance the architectural elements of the building, such as column, sill lines, cornices, and roof edges, and do not unreasonably interrupt or obscure or hide them. Yes, I say. The sign design is in harmony with other signage on the same or adjacent structures and provides reasonable continuity in mounting location, height, proportions, and materials. It's really not applicable because it's a residential zone. There aren't really other signs, but either yes or any, I guess it doesn't matter. Yes, because it's already checked.
Doesn't the sign is in harmony with other signage on the same or adjacent structures? I mean, the old sign is the same, so wouldn't that roundabout way be yes?
Yeah, sure. Yes. The sign materials, color, lettering, illumination, in form are reasonably compatible with building design, neighborhood, context, and use. Will the sign be lit?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Perfect.
I love when I hear it.
The sign size, location, design, and illumination are not judged to present a safety hazard to vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Yes. Perfect. Done. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Welcome.
all right.
So Elliot, we'll finalize this report.
Okay.
We'll send it to you and to Lara Davis at the ZBA and to the chair of the ZBA, so they'll have it for your meeting. For your
Perfect. All right, sounds good. And then
Good job.
for
Yeah.
next Wednesday, it's the same thing, just show up at 6?
Oh, for the ZBA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just check in with Lara.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
Elliot.
night.
Welcome to town.
Anything else we want to switch around? The mixed-use development definition was just a very quick question. With the discussion about the mixed use in the downtown, I wondered if the planning board wanted to revisit the mixed-use definition, perhaps for fall town meeting, or leave it as is.
So if I remember correctly, this is, there was a suggestion, I guess, that we have sort of maybe, as I interpret it, kind of a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't grow or diminish with the size of the property and the floor area ratio. Is that the piece that we're discussing?
The piece is the definition of mixed-use development that says, in a mixed-use development in a two-story building, the residential uses cannot be more than 50% of the gross floor area. In a three-story building, not more than 40% of the gross floor area.
That, and does it have anything to do with the ground floor, basement? We were talking about also previously that.
Well, no residential units in the basement.
In the basement. I did go looking at other towns to try to understand our building commissioner, to see where he was coming from in his interpretation. So this has nothing to do with that, right? Or is this to also clarify that? about whether you can have, what is it, residential in the basement.
Well, that's clear, it says
That's-
no.
Right. So the question is, I think, on the, I wish I had it in front of me, I don't have it in front of me, but,
But we don't, so we don't have to decide on a definition
Right.
now. I was just wondering if the board thought we should revisit it, and perhaps
yes.
if we come up with something that we think is better, bring it to fall town meeting.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Are they, is Joe here? Oh, so let him go then.
Yes.
So the next item on the agenda, again, oh, and I didn't say the discussion of mixed-use development definition. That was what we just discussed. I don't know if I read that out.
You did.
Okay, good. It's not really that late. I don't know why I'm getting confused. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, Open Space Monitoring Report FY '24. Karina?
Yes, so, Joe Orzel, who is representing Lucas Environmental, who was contracted to do the open space monitoring for fiscal year '24, which they completed in June, by June 30th of 2024. Typically, we would have this presentation in late summer, early fall, but we've had such a busy schedule that we've been postponing it. So Joe is here to give us a very brief presentation on the sites he visited and some findings. Joe, welcome.
Welcome, Joe. Thank you for waiting this long. Sorry about that. And your report is fabulous, as always, very detailed.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for inviting me here tonight to review the report. I'll try and keep it fairly brief. I know it's getting late and everyone probably wants to get home. This year, or last year, the report took a look at 5 subdivisions with open space within the town.
Joe, you just have to speak a little closer to the microphone, or just a little bit
Okay.
louder. Okay, thanks.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Let me see if I can adjust that at all. I don't know.
Yes, she said.
About as loud as I can get. I'll try and speak up. So the report format is similar to what we have submitted in previous years, and includes 7 sections. Those being property identification, open space requirements, site conditions that were observed, site photographs, maps, notes, and the notes section typically includes the permit requirements, various permit requirements that are relative to open space. And the final section is action items that are recommended. This year, the 5 sites were All-American Storage at 10 Turnpike Road. This is our second look at that location, the previous one being in 2019. Stonebrook Village at Stonebrook Court. Also our second look at this one, the previous one being in 2020. Bradford Oaks, Metacomet Lane. 4th one is Eastbrook Farm Estates at Eastbrook Farm Road. And the 5th one being Hillside Estates at Hillside Avenue. In addition, the selected open space sites had open space easements at all locations. 2 of the sites had open space parcels. There was a site with a no disturbance buffer and a site with a no cut buffer.
Joe, we still
Yep.
can't hear you very well.
Oh, okay, I
I'm
don't know.
sorry. Maybe just lean in a
Is
little.
that any better?
Yeah, or just like
This is, yes.
louder.
Well, typically there's not an issue with me being able to be heard. Let me
We can hear you, it's just kind of muffled.
Huh,
It's a
okay.
little quiet and muffled.
Is this any better?
Yes, way better.
Okay, I've got the mic volume turned all the way up. Let's see. There were no dedicated town-owned open space parcels at the sites reviewed this year, with the 2 open space parcels reviewed being owned by the Southborough Open Land Foundation. Site visits took place on June 12th and 13th of last year. In addition to the report format that we have submitted in previous years, this year we included an open space awareness and enforcement guidance document as one of the appendices. This document includes a guidance narrative, open space draft and open space notification letter for property owners with either with easements on their property or abutting open space parcels. A draft open space encroachment policy and a draft encroachment notification letter for notifying property owners if they have an encroachment issue. And hopefully the commission has, or the board has some time to take a look at these and maybe offer any comments. And you know, in the past, we had recommended some type of notification system for the town to utilize, and hopefully this will be helpful toward that end. What I'd like to do is to briefly go through each subdivision, some of the conditions observed, and some of the recommended action items. And if you have any questions on any of these, please feel free to speak up at any time. The first site was the, as I mentioned, All American Storage at 10 Turnpike Road. This was a lower impact development approved in 2019. Contains a 123,000 square foot building to be used as a self-storage facility, as well as other associated infrastructure. The decision required 7/10 of an acre to be set aside as a designated permanent open space. The open space areas consist primarily of forested upland with some shrub-dominated areas. As I noted, we had previously inspected the area in 2021. I think I may have had my year wrong previously. And it was reported in the 2021 Open Space Monitoring Report. Landscaping and construction debris was previously observed and continues to be observed within the open space from the abutting property to the south. And invasive vegetation continues to be very extensive in the western portion of the open space, with a large dense stand of Japanese knotweed present. The eastern portion of the open space remains relatively free of invasive vegetation.
So has the proponent at 10 Turnpike seen this?
I'm sorry, what was that? I couldn't quite make it out.
I'm asking Karina, sorry, Joe, because this,
Okay.
so this site plan hasn't been closed out, and I think they're going to be asking for
A modification.
a modification, so we can address.
No, I will provide the applicant, because he's just submitting the modifications. He dropped them off today after several meetings. So I'll let him know about this, because there's other physical work they have to complete.
Okay, good. Thank you, Joe. I just wanted to check on that, because I knew they were coming back, and
Okay.
I wanted them to be able to address these things then.
I just couldn't hear the what was said, so I was.
Nope, thank you. You can go on. I'm sorry about that.
As far as the encroachments I had noted, there are large piles of landscape and yard waste and construction debris present along that southern property line, as was previously observed. Last year, I did have a handheld GPS with me, and the readings indicated that the encroachment extends well into the open space. And in fact, one of the concrete bound markers for the open space cannot be located, and it appeared it was probably buried in some of that debris. In addition, as per the conditions of the special permit and the major site plan approval, no invasives are allowed to get established. And while some of that Japanese knotweed was likely well established prior to the development of the site, there were numerous sprouts of Japanese knotweed observed within some of the recently graded areas outside the open space. So that should definitely be looked at, because it looked like there was new invasive species coming in subsequent to the work that was done. As far as action items, as I noted, the landscaping debris within the southern property boundary should be investigated, and that should really be addressed. It's a fair amount of material. The GPS coordinates, while the handheld device is not highly accurate, it is fairly accurate and indicated that that was well into the open space easement. Recommend that the abutting property owner be notified of the presence of the open space, that which was also previously recommended. I'm not sure if that had occurred.
Joe, you're fading a little again.
Okay. I'll just have to stay close to the mic.
Okay, thank you.
And as was previously recommended, we continue to recommend that control and management of invasive species, especially the Japanese knotweed in the western portion of the site, be allowed. As I had just noted, some of that was likely present prior to the recent work, but there is some new invasive species coming up in some of the more recent work, although that is outside the open space. The second subdivision was Stonebrook Village. This consists of a 3-lot subdivision approved in 2013. Contains an existing daycare building and a garage on lot 1, a single-family house on lot 2, and a 15-unit over 55 condominium on lot 3. The development includes 3 areas of dedicated privately owned open space consisting of a total of 2.89 acres to remain continuously undisturbed in its natural condition. The open space boundary is clearly marked by rebar rods, which makes it very easy to observe. There's also sections that have split rail fencing, which have proved to be very effective in keeping any encroachment outside of the open space area. Compared to our previous inspection, the invasive species appear somewhat less common along the edge of the open space. I believe there was treatment that was done of some of the invasive species. However, interior within the wetlands, Japanese barberry appears more common within the western portion of the open space. During the previous inspection, there were a couple of areas observed where there was apparently there was construction occurred within the open space. My understanding is that the open space boundary is or was in the process of being modified to exclude those areas from the open space, and the open space is being modified. In both 2020 and 2024, the open space appeared otherwise generally undisturbed by encroachments. And as I noted, the split rail fence and signage appear to provide a good protection against encroachment. As far as recommended action items, several of the rebar markers indicating the revised open space boundary do not have the caps marked OS as required under condition 67 of the decision. So those rebars should get those caps so they can be properly identified. There's a small section of buried silt fence that remains near unit 13, which should be removed. Also, would recommend verifying that the Unit Owners Association is, in fact, hiring a qualified engineer to annually inspect the open space as required under condition 68 of the decision. Verifying that the Unit Owners Association semi-annually inspects the open space as required under condition 61. And verify that the Unit Owners Association annually reminds property owners that grass clippings, leaves, branches, and other yard debris may not be deposited in any area of the open space, also as required under condition 61. As I said, there was very little evidence of encroachment in this one, so it's either the markers are being very effective, or maybe the owners have been notified, or are being notified annually, or possibly a combination of both. But that one was looking pretty good.
We're having trouble
The-
hearing you again, Joe.
Okay, the
Sorry.
next site was Bradford Oaks, Metacomet Lane. That's a 4-lot subdivision in cul-de-sac that was approved in 1998. The approval made no reference to open space. However, the definitive plan has a variable width open space easement clearly labeled on portions of lots 1, 2, and 4. In addition, the definitive plan includes a 20-foot wide no-cut buffer zone along the outer perimeter of all 4 lots. The open space consists primarily of a mix of wetland and upland forests, grass clipping piles, leaf piles, and relatively small area of mowed lawn were observed within the open space easement and no-cut buffer zone. There was also 3 white pine stumps, one looking fairly recent, that were observed within an area of the no-cut buffer. The report is more specific as far as where the various apparent encroachments were located, but I won't get into those locations in detail tonight. As far as invasives, within the open space easement and no-cut buffer, the most common invasives were Norway maple and Japanese barberry. Outside of these areas, there are some significant areas of dense invasive vegetation located within landscape maintenance areas of the subdivision. These include a large dense stand of Japanese knotweed within the cul-de-sac center, and a dense growth of Japanese knotweed and oriental bittersweet around the stormwater basin. As far as action items, although the only apparent restriction within the open space easement is that no structure of any kind be erected, we recommend that the very large pile of grass clippings located within the edge of the open space easement to the north of the cul-de-sac be removed so that the natural herbaceous vegetation can reestablish. The narrow southwest end of the no-cut buffer is currently being maintained as mowed lawn, contrary to the requirement that no vegetation be removed from the no-cut buffer. Although not part of the open space easement, both the land within the center of the cul-de-sac and the drainage easement containing the stormwater management basin are included in the landscaped areas to be maintained by the HOA. Currently, the center of the cul-de-sac consists of that large dense stand of Japanese knotweed, and the Japanese knotweed and the oriental bittersweet are present at the stormwater basin. We would recommend that the homeowner association perform invasive species management as part of the required maintenance. In addition, there was a recommendation in the original 2018 Audubon summary regarding, stating that when Danforth Development reserved to itself the open space easement, it created an easement that did not run with the land. However, Audubon recommended working with the HOA in Danforth to grant the OSE to the homeowners association, and that still remains as a recommendation, if that in fact hasn't occurred. The fourth site looked at was Eastbrook Farm Estates, Eastbrook Farm Road. The definitive subdivision plan was approved in 1992 and included 8 lots, one of which was a designated open space parcel, and the others containing a variable width open space easement around the perimeter of the subdivision. Subsequent lot line changes resulted in a total of 9 lots, including the open space parcel, with open space easement present on 6 of the remaining 8 lots. Several apparent yard encroachments into the open space easement were observed, as were yard debris piles in several locations. Invasive vegetation is patchy, and there was relatively little invasives in the open space parcel, with the moderate runoff in the open space easement. Some of the encroachments appeared to be quite extensive. These included yard and lawn extension within the entire easement, a shed and landscaping within the easement, a water garden and landscaping within the easement, as well as the common yard debris, brush piles within the easements and within portions of the open space parcel. As far as recommended action items, there are about 5 recommendations just to verify that some of the observed apparent encroachments within the open space easement are in fact, some of those are pretty clear because they extend up to the stone wall, which is the property bound, and the 20-foot wide easement is completely developed either by lawn or landscaping or other structures such as a shed or a water garden.
We're losing you a little bit again.
Okay. Again, would recommend that the property owners are notified of the presence of the open space easement on their property. I believe at that site, I had one of the property owners come out and was not aware that there was an open space easement on the portion of the lot which had been extended into the easement. The 5th site was Hillside Estates, Hillside Avenue. It's a 5-lot flexible plan subdivision located on the Hillside Ave cul-de-sac. The open space includes a 10.5 acre open space parcel A that was deeded to the Southborough Open Land Foundation. The definitive plan also includes reference to a half-acre parcel B as open space, which includes a pre-existing right-of-way and also shows a 30-foot wide buffer easement, no disturb, strip at the back of the lots 11, 13, and 15. The open space parcel remains in a natural state. It consists of a mix of forested uplands and wetlands. Man-made alterations to the open space include brush piles and apparent yard encroachment. There is also significant yard encroachment into the no disturb buffer easement in several locations, and invasive vegetation is also significant in some locations. As far as recommended action items, we again recommend that the apparent significant encroachments at some of the properties which are included, identified in the report, be verified. But again, these were fairly obvious that they likely are encroaching well into the easement. Also recommend a follow-up with the Southborough Open Land Foundation to be sure they are aware of a large leaf and brush pile, or piles, apparently within the open space in the area behind 16 Hillside Ave roughly, as well as a tree stand within the parcel, not known if hunting is allowed on the open space parcel. And again, notifying the property owners of the presence of open space easements on their property. So general recommendations, again, we continue to recommend that the Southborough Planning Department, working with the Open Space Preservation Commission and the Deed Research Subcommittee, continue the process of monitoring the open space land in Southborough. I think it's important. We've seen over the course of the past several years that although many of the encroachments are fairly minor, with being leaf or brush piles, there have been some significant encroachments with development and even building into the open space areas. As with previous years, again, last year, many of the encroachments appeared to be from abutting properties, not the subdivision lots being monitored. And therefore, it's important that all property owners abutting the open space, not just the property owners of the development in which it was created, are made aware of that their property abuts open space or contains an open space easement. To that end, we this year, as I noted, we had prepared a draft open space awareness and enforcement guidance and an open space encroachment policy for the board to consider. And hopefully this will be beneficial in maybe setting up a way to notify property owners and to proceed with a policy regarding enforcement of any encroachments that are found. Also continue to recommend that the open space bounds be marked with either pheno markers or concrete bound markers. However, in some of the locations that I looked at with pheno markers, if those sites become fairly overgrown, they can become difficult to locate. Therefore, we're also recommending that signage, and I know there was some discussion of this tonight, such as a 4-inch round metal sign is recommended along the open space boundary, in addition to the more permanent markers. The signage would also help to more clearly identify open space locations to the properties. We also continue to recommend that some form of vegetation management, particularly for invasive vegetation, be allowed to be conducted within select open space areas, especially in those areas that are intended as access ways to the open space easements or parcels. Some access through some of the narrower open space easements is often severely restricted by dense invasive vegetative growth, making it almost impossible to get through. And if you want to get to an open space parcel and you can't walk through the easement, you have to walk through someone's yard outside of the easement. LE also continues to recommend that the town update the open space map layer on town GIS. This helps us with our reducing the time required to prepare maps. It also provides to be useful for property owners as a reference to where open space may be located on or near their property. And as I had just mentioned, we continue to recommend that the town prepare a process to address any infractions and non-compliance. And to that end, we have provided the draft guidance policy notification letters for the board to consider. And that's a quick overview of last year's monitoring. And I'll be happy to take any questions for any of the board members who have any questions.
Thank you very much, Joe. Good job. Ms. Houlihan.
Joe, welcome back. Thank you so much. Sorry we pushed this out and it's so late at night. Really appreciate the thoroughness always of Lucas reports and the recommendations. I do like the guidance and the draft letters, so that's super helpful. I didn't get fully acquainted with this, but you've obviously done a lot of work, and I was just leaning over to Mimi saying, what are we really going to do as town for some of this encroachment, which is significant as we look at some of the landscaping design, but really appreciate your late evening, all the recommendations here, and thank you.
Ms. DeMaria.
And Joe, it's Debbie. I just want to echo the same. It's really amazing work. I think we have some work to do too, and these forms and templates, and I like the report template that you're using. It makes it really easy to follow along with you as you're giving the report, but also the documents that you provided in the back. Question to Mimi and the board, who actually will be filling out those letters for these property owners? Is that our next step?
That would be the next step of discussion.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Joe.
And on some of these, I think we would have to loop the building commissioner in, because he's the code enforcement officer. But on the, like, the first letter that's just generic, that you have open space in your property, just letting you know, I think that we could probably send those out. And I think that would be helpful, just so people realize.
Yeah, maybe along with a copy of the subdivision, showing the colored areas, so people have a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the GIS, if it's available on the GIS, it's easy to pull that up. Okay.
Yeah, we're working on that, too, updating that. You all set, Mr. Murray?
I am.
Ms. Braccio? You all set? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Very helpful. And those letters are very helpful. We can at least start with the let people know before.
Yeah.
We can start with the carrot before the stick.
Yes, that was kind of the idea in preparing those, is introduce them, just make them aware that they have some open space either on their property or nearby, and then if need be, take it up a notch.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe, in the very near future, I'll be compiling a list for FY25, which we usually do in the spring, late spring. So I'll be touching base with Open Space Preservation Commission Chair Freddie Gillespie, and we'll figure out some of the remaining locations for this year to satisfy the fiscal year monitoring, but 2025. I'll reach out to you.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 361 Turnpike Road, Valvoline Instant Oil Change Minor Site Plan. And am I to understand that the proponent has asked to continue without testimony?
Yes, since it's minor site plan, it's a discussion item anyway. He did sign, for formality, a extension request to March 24th with the deadline to act for the plan May 2nd.
Okay.
So it pushes it out.
So that we don't need a motion, right?
No, it's just a, so just to give you a quick update, though, that F&O provided peer review of submission number 2, which was distributed. Vito Colonna from Cornerstone is working on a revised submission number 3 to address some of the peer review comments. This includes scheduling a test pit at the proposed basin location this Friday at 9. Fuss and O'Neill said they didn't need to be there. If I have a chance, I'll go there if I can. So that's where we're at, and then we'll expect a revised submission.
Great. Next. Discussion item, 250 Turnpike Road, 40B status. I don't think there's anything new other than the next meeting is the 19th. And from the last meeting, they said they were going to resubmit the subdivision. So I haven't seen that yet. Anything else on that? The next item on the agenda, planners report.
Okay. Let's make this quick. So, we need to get the warrant articles finalized to go to print for the warrant, which I believe the deadline is, we just have that schedule up, don't you? Hold on, I have it here.
The 18th,
It's the 18th, so they were provided the draft. Hold on, I have too much going on here. Can you open that schedule?
Yeah.
So the warrant closed on March 11th. No new warrant articles yet tomorrow. And Mimi's going to attend the select board meeting to have any questions on the 2 warrant articles, 3 I should say, because the ADU is 2. So we can debrief on any revisions that they have or any comments that would change anything. And then we'll have the March, we'll be able to provide that for the warrant if the board is, because our next meeting is March 24th, which is after the deadline.
Right. So if any changes have to be made, and anything from Chris on that, what he'd like to see about that shared parking exclusion for 1 and 2 families, if there's any change, we would have to do a quick Zoom or something and
Yeah.
approve it before the 18th.
Yeah. Quick Zoom if needed.
And just to clarify, I'm discussing the 2 zoning articles. I'm not discussing 2 East Main, which was put on that agenda, which I never agreed to. I don't know how it got on the agenda. It's completely inappropriate. The project is before the planning board, and the agenda has been revised, and that was taken off. Just so you know, that had nothing to do with me.
And we really need to get the warrant articles before the 18th because it has to be ready to be signed on the 18th. So we'll need a time frame.
Well, do you want to just do that right now? Let's just look and see. So that gives us this week. Do you have access to your calendars? You select board, and then we'd be looking at something like the third. It's due on the Friday, right? So Wednesday or Thursday.
They're going to sign it on the 18th, so we probably should get, oh, that's just right around the corner.
Right,
So-
that's Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you're going to do the select board meeting. Chris Lund, that's hoping he gets back rapidly. Maybe it's a Thursday.
Thursday's good.
Could we do a morning? Can you guys do morning?
Mm-hmm.
I can do morning.
Like 9:30? Or early? 9:30 to 10? Just a
9:30.
half
Yeah.
hour. It shouldn't be long, right?
Right.
We have to post
So we'd have to post it tomorrow.
tomorrow
Oh.
morning before, so the time frame was 9:30 a.m. Post agenda for 3/13/25.
But we are just, we're not, do we need all of us? Do we need a quorum?
Yeah.
We need,
I would think we'd need to vote on
Because
it.
we vote at 8 a.m. But you want to vote on it, what we submit into the warrant article?
yeah.
Okay. So Jesse, we just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Is that too much short notice for you guys to try and?
48 hours.
Okay. Does that give you enough time?
First thing we do is have to post it.
Okay.
That's all. Just, it's a very short,
Zoom.
Zoom.
It'll be a Zoom.
Zoom only.
Should we have a second backup if, do you guys have anything on, well, it's due Friday, right?
I have my class on Friday morning.
So what time meeting? I am some level of flexible. The dog is
till 11:30, but these guys are done at noon. Well, maybe that could be a quick Zoom, too. Yeah.
It's fine, yep.
Yep.
The 14th at 11:30?
Yep.
Yeah, if we don't have it, we cancel.
Yeah.
Zoom only,
Yep.
and just the top two items on that.
Yeah, and so the main thing is anything from Chris, like he'd like to see to cure that issue that he finds with 174.
With the ADU.
Yeah. And then if there's anything from the select board.
And select board comments. Okay. Okay, do I have anything else here for you? Still no word on hybrid meetings continuing. Hasn't been any word yet, and the deadline is the end of March. That was done, 120 turn, 40B, I think that's it.
Scenic road tree cutting.
Scenic road tree cutting, yes. So, it was found that National Grid was out trimming trees on scenic roads and probably other roads without a vegetation management plan in place or having applied. So they were notified. It was my understanding that Chris Leroy, as tree warden, put a pause on them and then sent an email to National Grid. There's a new manager there who replaced the one who did the VMP last year, and informed him. I wasn't copied on the email, but he did Chris followed up and said he did send an email explaining the situation. So that's where that's at. So they've been stopped. The resolution would be, the solution would be, they would submit a request for a vegetation management plan to Chris Leroy with circuit maps and a cover letter and explaining, and the draft document that describes the vegetation management plan, which is supposed to be done before the end of the year for the next fiscal year. But we could solve it by having them come in and, if Chris requires them to come in and do that. And the planning board's involved on the scenic roads, very similar to last year's.
I'm wondering if the board would like me to send an email to Chris and copy Bill and just make clear that per town code, chapter 153, that we follow Mass General Law, chapter 87 and chapter 1415C. Okay, I'll do that. It just so happened that they were right on my side yard.
I was going to ask, what roads?
Oregon, or Edgewood. They were right on the corner of Oregon and Edgewood, and I got home from my class, and I'm like,
And if I could just add, so we also got a little notice on our mailbox, so ridiculously enough, to do it on Oregon Road, like houses away from each other with two planning board members, was interesting to say the least. But yeah, Mimi actually stopped it from happening, so thank you to Mimi.
Did you get, what do you mean you got a notice on the mailbox? Like, we're doing tree cutting today?
yeah, yeah.
And either your property or your neighbors, I think it even said it.
The vegetation management plan, which it was not. So I called the DPW, I wanted to talk to Chris, but I couldn't get him, so I talked to Bill. He said, oh, Chris is going over there, and he'll get back to you, or I'll get back to you. I haven't heard from him yet. So I called the name on that little thing, and he came over and talked to me. He's like, oh, I just sent this circuit to the tree warden. I'm like, well, it's not on this year's, and I had the vegetation management plan. It's not on this plan. So he said, well, I'll tell him to stop, so. But they were doing Corderville this morning, which isn't a scenic road, but that's not on the vegetation management plan either. So I think they're just, so they should be reminded that they're required to follow Mass General Law. Mr. Litt.
Tim Litt, Woodland Road. Yeah, they did Woodland and they did Richards. The other thing I would point out is day before yesterday, something like that, I spent probably 20 minutes with clippers cleaning up after National Grid, leaving, vines and stuff that they dislodged when they took the limbs down were across the sidewalk, blowing in the wind, hitting people in the face, the whole bit. I sent Bill a note, but I think when a vegetation management plan is reviewed, it's important to note that like your mother says, when you're done with your toys, you clean up. When they're done messing up the sidewalk, they really should clean it up. They shouldn't count on my doing it. Especially because I don't do the whole town, I just do where I walk.
So I think Woodland was on the vegetation management plan in Richards, yeah.
But maybe, whether it's on the plan or not, what I'm telling you
Well,
is...
yeah, they
is-
should, I'll have to look and see if that is on there. But it was on the little, did you get a thing on your mailbox saying that they were going to
Every
be?
mailbox on the street got one except mine.
Oh,
Blew off.
but, so it said that they were going to pick up after themselves, that they would clean up after.
Well, the sidewalks were borderline hazardous because when they take the especially on Corderville, when they take the branches down, the vines that were on the branches come down. When they fall, the brush that's down below gets pushed out on the sidewalk. And so as you try and walk by, it's right at eye level, it's all coming out and hitting you. And then the other part is along my entire route, there are anything between a foot and 3 foot bits of wood left behind, whether they're branches or vines. Some of it's evergreen, some of it's oak. It's just, it's not like Mom would like you to leave your playroom when you're done.
No.
Okay, so I have a quick
And
question.
I don't ask for perfection, but this
Yep,
was just a
close
little
to
bit
it.
much.
So
Thanks, Tim.
the vegetative, just remind me, the vegetative management plan is provided typically to the tree warden every December for the next fiscal year?
Yes, per the policy, he's required to request it every year, and Grid will provide it by the end of December every year.
Okay, and did they not do it, or did we
Not
do-
sure, that will be part of my question.
Okay,
and
because
I don't know.
it's an easy fix, right? Especially
But
if
that hasn't
somebody-
started yet, so the last year's goes through March 31st. April 1st is the new year.
Right. So in my search, looking at scenic roads anyway, some towns are doing 5-year vegetative management plans. I mean, they're out there with the lines. They know how big a tree is going to get. Like, they're already seeing the trees that are going to be, on their list in the next couple of years. And I think maybe we can look at other towns and see what do they do, because we're going to be playing catch-up like this, I think. I don't think the vegetative management plan is a great process, but at least it's some notification. Remember, a couple of years ago, they weren't even notifying us. But I found out that some towns, and some towns are sort of projecting out a little bit more than that. And I wonder if we can see what other towns are doing, and if that's something we might ask for. Because then it's locked in for a few years. You don't have to worry about if it misses in December.
Minutes.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes for February 10th, 2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor. Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
I make a motion to approve the February 24th, 2025 minutes with discussion. Do I do
I
that?
second.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm about to send the edits because I know these guys already have. I had an edit on line 52. It was just the way it was characterized, which was me questioning our role. It says Marnie spoke about, Ms. Houlihan spoke about the role, or what the planning board could do for sustainability. And it was really about questioning our role in this. So I just made those edits and I'll attach them and send it to you. So it's a track changes, you just need to accept it. So if the board is okay with that edit.
Sure. Yep. I have something also.
Okay. Oh, so I should just edit this document.
Line 14 says 80% of the tax burden is on residential, blah, blah. It should be over 80%.
And then the next line, 16, bring it back to 80%. And it says in the minutes, commercial and 20% residential. It's the other way around. It's 80% residential, 20% commercial.
Got it. So I made those changes as well.
Oh, wow. You're very efficient.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to. I know these guys have a lot on their plate.
Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes?
Brashear, yes.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes?
Brashear, yes.